An entitled Karen brought her dog into a restaurant, claiming that it was a service animal, even though everybody with eyes could clearly see it definitely wasn't. But after this lady tried to let her dog get on the table and the chairs, the manager of this restaurant thankfully shut her down, saying that if they wanted to stay here, then that dog needs to stay off the table, which, as you can imagine, caused the biggest meltdown I've ever seen from somebody in my entire life. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and hit the bell to turn on notifications. Okay, so to start things off, I was out to eat with a family this weekend. The restaurants were all around pretty packed, but one of them was relatively slow, so we went there. It was like maybe at like 15% capacity, if that. We were seated at a booth and had ordered our food when this table of 3 came in with a poodle. Like literally just a straight up dog was in tow with these people. They had the dog sitting in the booth seat, and honestly, it was kind of spastic. It was not staying still at all, which made it obvious that this was very clearly like a high maintenance family pet and nothing more. Like they were literally pulling it off the table again and again. The manager then came over and inquired about the dog and very politely informed them that they could only have registered support animals in the restaurant. And the Karen in this story first claimed, oh, it's an emotional support animal. But thankfully, the manager knew her stuff. The manager then said, well, emotional support animals are not ADA protected animals and therefore not allowed in the restaurant. And for reference, the abbreviation ADA stands for American Disabilities Act. Now, faced with this defeat, the Karen changed her story entirely and then told her that it was actually a registered service animal and that in reality it was actually protected by the law. So the manager said to them, okay, well, if it is a registered support animal, then it can stay, but even service animals cannot sit in our seats or on the table. They must remain on the floor out of the aisle. And you know what? The manager didn't ask for any proof or ask any other questions. She simply stated that service animals are not allowed on the seats or the tables. And guess what? When the Karen heard this, she flipped her lid. And of course, you know what kind of back and forth went on there. Many words like discrimination and unfair were used again and again. But much to my absolute enjoyment, the manager didn't budge for a second. They said, well, if the animal stays, it must be on the floor. There are no exceptions. Ultimately, and thankfully, this Karen and her entire party left without ordering any food. And they even left by saying, well, I'm never coming back here ever again, which I found to be incredibly amusing. But honestly, I'm not judging if it was like an actual service protected animal or not, because if it was, I will say I've never seen one behave so erratically before. And if that dog really was a service animal, then I am seriously surprised they've never run into this hurdle before, because this was something I've never witnessed in my entire life. Okay, I think the manager did so good here because holy crap, this is like a lawsuit waiting to happen if you do it wrong. I'm pretty sure the manager or like the business owner can only ask like, hey, is the dog a service animal required for a disability? And what kind of like work or task has the dog been trained to perform? Or something like that. This is also like legitimately off the top of my head, so I'm not totally sure about that. So please do your own research before you like quote that. But I'm pretty sure there's like only like specific things a manager or business owner can ask about a dog that's being claimed to be like a service animal, which is exactly what the manager did, dude. They dodged any kind of like, oh, I'm gonna sue you for discrimination. Because no, you didn't discriminate. You're just saying like, hey, if you have a service animal, they cannot be on the seats or the table. That's disgusting and it's not sanitary. Like seriously, service animal or not, there's no excuse for that. So when this clearly like not a service animal walks in and they're like, it's my emotional support animal. Oh no, I'm sorry, I mean a service animal. Like that would have been the moment where hopefully I could be like, okay, you gotta go ahead and get out of here. Maybe that's where I would fail as a manager, but dude, I would hate dealing with that. Because I'll say it for all of us, she's clearly lying. She's clearly making this all up. It's not a service animal. It's not an emotional support animal, which by the way, I don't even know what that is. This is some idiot Karen being like, oh, I've got to bring my dog with me and it's going to be everybody else's problem except for mine. Like that is truly obnoxious. I would hate dealing with that, dude. So please leave a comment down below. Have you ever run into something like this? Let us know down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk, and you too can learn about the wonders of horseback riding, because a user by the name of Thunderblast actually listens to these stories while they drop their mom off for horseback riding lessons. They love the stories, and honestly, we love you. We appreciate you so much. And that is super rad. Like, dude, first off, I could never get into horseback riding. That seems scary to me. I did it once when I was a kid, and I was terrified the entire time. So yeah, in my eyes, your mom is like super tough and like super cool, because I could never do that. But seriously, thank you so much for watching, Thunderblast. We love and appreciate you. If you yourself have some burning stories in your life that you just want to share with the audience and the universe, then go to AmITheJerk.com/submit. That's the only place on the internet where you're going to have your voice heard, dude. So please check it out. We would love to hear from you. And with that, let's get back to the video and on to the next story. Am I the jerk for not doing a huge favor for my dad when he's clearly desperate for someone to house sit and watch his dogs while he goes away on vacation? Because after I said no, simply because I don't have the time and it's just gonna be super inconvenient for me, my dad essentially threw a temper tantrum and is now no longer talking to me. And right now, I'm kind of wondering if I'm the jerk at this point, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things off, I'm a 19-year-old female and I still live at home with my mom and my brother. I also work part-time and I go to school full-time at a local college. Now, my dad and his wife just informed me that they'll be going on a vacation for 2 weeks in the beginning of September. And right now, they're looking at the different options they have for pet care, and I'm basically assuming that they came to me as I would be the cheapest option. My dad offered to pay me $1,000 to live in his house and care for his dog for 2 weeks. He would buy groceries for me in advance and said I could have friends over if needed. Now, initially, I planned on charging him like the same amount that I make in a 2-week period at work. However, he upped the price, and honestly, right now, it's kind of tempting. Not to mention, living alone and having a quiet space to get my homework and studying done would be really nice. However, there are many inconveniences. For starters, think of it as a line, and my house is in the middle along with my work. My dad's house is 30 minutes to the left and school is 30 minutes to the right. This would mean that 3 times a week I drive 2 hours per day to get to and from school and an hour per day to get to and from work. And that seems really exhausting, plus the gas would be insane. Next, I would have to call out of work at least on the days where I have to go to school, and my plan for my schedule was also to go to work until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon and then straight to school for my 5 o'clock evening classes. However, the dog cannot be alone for that long, so I wouldn't be able to work those days. Any other days I can work, I wouldn't be able to work the whole day either, since the dog cannot stay inside for that long. Now, the third reason is that I have a concert in that time period that is in a different state. It's only like an hour and a half of driving, but I'd be gone all day. And I did plan on like getting my brother to go watch the dog. However, I doubt he'll stay there all day. Next, it's an inconvenience to a lot of people. I have my own dog at home. I usually stop at home during my lunch break at work to take her out, and I can also do so before I head to school. I am her main caretaker because my mom and brother both work full-time jobs, and they work a lot further away from home than I do, meaning she would suffer in this process or they would have to be completely inconvenienced. Not to mention that I usually take care of the household tasks since, I'm home most often, and I really doubt that they'll get done if I'm gone. Finally though, I'm leaving for a vacation the day after my dad gets back, meaning I'm already missing more work, and it just seems like a lot in that time. With all of this together, no matter the money, I simply decided to say no to my dad despite the fact that I could tell he was hoping I'd agree since he really doesn't want to pay anyone more. But when I told him about this, he didn't take it well and even got upset, saying that I'm never there to help when he needs it and said he offered me so many benefits, and now he's not even like answering the phone. And when he does, I can tell he's annoyed, and I guess him and his wife really were just betting on me. I've asked my family and they think I'm not the jerk, but some of my friends believe that I should have just done it since I'd make that money plus more from the few days I do work. So am I really the jerk here? Because I just don't know what to do anymore. No, you're not the jerk. I mean, honestly, it sounds like this would have like completely disrupted your life and your family's life, and that just doesn't seem like it's worth it. Because dude, you can't possibly be expected to juggle all of that on top of all the stuff you're already doing. Like you're going to school and you're working and you're taking care of your own dog. Not to mention if you stayed at that house, that $1,000 is probably very quickly not going to be worth it. And it's so weird that he's trying to be like, wow, I can't believe you're not willing to uproot your whole life to do this for me. You never show up for me when I need it, even with all these benefits. But what he's really saying is, oh man, you didn't uproot your life to make me happy? How dare you not inconvenience yourself so that I don't have to think about this? Like, he doesn't care about your happiness, he just wants you to do it. And he doesn't care how you do it, he just says to himself, oh, just get it done. And honestly, I hate that. Like, that would be more than enough reason for me to be like, you know what, I don't really care if you're not calling me. I'm not doing this crap. I'm not gonna uproot my life just to make you happy, especially when there's no gratitude or like, oh, I totally understand, don't worry about it. He's just being a tightwad with his money and he's thinking, oh, I can get it cheap by getting my daughter to do it. So no, you're not the jerk. I wouldn't help this guy out for anything, especially if this is the way he's gonna act when you say no. Because truly, you have a choice. You don't have to do exactly what he says. And his reaction alone should be like all the information you need moving forward if he ever tries this crap again. Because you'll know for a fact that it's not worth it and I would just simply not waste my time. My entitled neighbors are constantly playing loud music and making noise all night, putting me in a situation where I am losing so much sleep that I feel like I'm going crazy, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Here's basically what they're doing. Okay, I want to start off by saying that it has been a long 8 years of having to live next door to these people. Now, I own my home and that house is a rental. The mother was human garbage and she was formally evicted, and the eldest son took over the lease 3 years ago. Basically, there are 6 people sharing that 3-bedroom house. This guy, another man, man, a woman, and his 3 siblings. Now, here's the main issues that are really going on. For starters, this guy and the other entitled jerk like to blast music with lots of bass, and he and the eldest son started parking beyond the driveway on the side of the house, which is right outside my bedroom window. Secondly, he will sit in the car late at night when he gets home, and then makes all types of noises once he turns the music off, where he starts like slamming his car doors and all this other stuff. Now, between all of that, the kids have thrown so much trash and like broken cinder blocks over the fence. I have lost so much sleep between having my sleep disrupted or just being jarred awake. Tonight, it was like 45 minutes until midnight that the first entitled jerk came in with a bass thumping. He quickly went inside, but then the second entitled idiot came in, pulled up on the side of the house maybe 30 minutes later, and proceeded to scroll on his phone. We have security cameras installed all around the house and property, so I could literally see him just scrolling away. Meanwhile, I was waiting because that jerk has woken me up so many times. And no, in case anybody was wondering, they are not civilized. So speaking to them is not going to happen. I turned the floodlight on and it was shining into his car, so he quickly got out and went inside. And you know what? I'm gonna do this every night going forward. That is, until he either gets it, or I'll just straight up send the security footage to the property manager just to show how loud the car doors slamming really is. I really wish somehow the roles could be reversed, where they could get a taste of their own medicine and somehow experience this level of sleep deprivation, because this situation sucks and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think it's time to go right to the property manager. I would go to whoever owns that building and say, hey, your tenants are being annoying. Here's all the footage of them doing that. Please make it stop. And I would keep reporting it until these people are just like, oh my gosh, I can't stand this guy. He's constantly complaining. Oh, and on top of that, I would be making non-emergency like noise complaints constantly against these people. I would make it very clear that, hey, your noise is bothering me, and yeah, you've got to do something about it. You got to turn that crap down, dude. I would make it a habit of having them on speed dial to make that happen. Because you shouldn't live like this. You shouldn't live with all this like music and noise, especially almost at midnight, dude. Most quiet hours in any like given like county or like even a city, during the weekday, they're typically at like 10 o'clock, at least in the United States. And this is also like where I live. So anything past that, where it's like obnoxious, loud bass boosting, like all this music, or any car door slamming and like making noise and being loud, like that crap is not okay. And I wouldn't put up with that for a second. I would absolutely complain until I turn blue in the face. Because yes, you have an expectation at certain hours of the night to have some semblance of like an expectation that, yeah, things are going to be peaceful and quiet. Anything contrary to that is annoying and you should not have to deal with that. So hopefully some kind of solution comes up, because I know for a fact if this was me, I would be miserable and very frustrated. Today, I discovered that my boyfriend is cheating on me with my sister, as I literally found Polaroid pictures of them hugging and kissing together. And now I am so completely pissed off about this, as I feel like any semblance of trust has just been completely thrown out the window, because right now I'm really upset and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, for a bit of context, me and my boyfriend have been dating for a whole year now. And honestly, throughout the entirety of this, we've had a really great relationship with no problems. So I literally would have never expected anything bad to come along, let alone cheating. My sister and I are close, but she is highly problematic. Like, she always copies me and flirts with people that I like, and I always knew that she was a huge pick-me, which is why I tried my best to not let my boyfriend meet her, and I honestly just don't even know why in the world I let them even meet in the first place. My sister was being all over him during their first meeting, but he wasn't really playing heed to her, which made me happy, and I thought, okay, I wouldn't need to take any precautions in the future. Me and my sister also share the same birth month, so one day I had gone to my boyfriend's apartment just to chill and hang out, and it was here that he had to go out in an emergency, and he told me that I could stay there and rest. Well, while I was at his apartment, I was kind of bored, so I went around snooping, and it was here that I found a huge box gift wrap with happy birthday written all over it. I then got really excited because my birthday is just 10 days away, so I thought, okay, maybe he got a gift early for me. I seriously couldn't help myself to know exactly what it might be, but when I opened the box, my heart dropped. It wasn't anything about me. Instead, it was Polaroid pictures of my boyfriend and sister, just spending time together and hugging and kissing, as well as some makeup for her and other goods, as well as a letter about how much he loves her and how she's the only one that he wants. Meanwhile, when I told him that I loved handmade gifts, he just kind of shrugged it off and said it takes too much work. Well, I literally lost my mind after this because I called my boyfriend 1,000 times, but of course he didn't pick up, and now I'm currently at my house with 3 missed phone calls from him, and honestly, I don't know what to do. I hate my sister so much for this. She's always stolen everything from me that I've ever wanted, and now I really just don't know what to do. Okay, dude, I would be so pissed off if this was me. Like, if I had a girlfriend who, like, hypothetically cheated on me with my brother, I would probably disown that brother, dude. Like, there's no way I would ever be okay with that. Like, I don't know about you, but I would take all that evidence and be like, okay, I'm gonna hang on to this, I'm gonna make copies of it, I'm gonna take pictures of everything, especially this stupid note, and I'm gonna use this as evidence as to why I'm breaking up with this person. And honestly, that's what I would do if I was in the original poster's shoes. Like, please tell me you hung on to all that stuff and you took pictures of it or have some kind of record of it, right? Because I can definitely see your boyfriend trying to be like, oh, I didn't cheat on you, and then like destroying the evidence or something like that. You need to make sure that this guy doesn't try to make you feel crazy or that you're like making it up or somehow blowing this out of proportion. Because trust me, we've seen stories like that all the time and it never ends well. And for me, and I can only speak for myself, but I think I would probably like share this with a family as soon as I could possibly do it, because holy crap, what a betrayal of trust. Like, I would absolutely and happily put them on blast if I was in your shoes. And obviously, if that's not right for your situation, then don't do that, but I can only speak to what I would do, and I would be feeling very evil in this moment. I would want the whole world to know about their stupid decision to ruin my life. But for anyone listening right now, like, what would you do in this situation? Have you ever been in this situation where a sibling has stolen your partner from you? Or even just like putting yourself in the shoes of the original poster? How would you handle this scenario? Like, please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for wanting to go on a hike for my birthday, even though my brother's girlfriend literally doesn't want to, as he's now demanding that I change my activity just so his girlfriend can also be involved? Which really puts me in a frustrating situation because I've literally accommodated this woman for several years now. And at this point, I'm annoyed and pissed off, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's currently going on. I'm a 26-year-old male, and I want to celebrate my birthday with my immediate family, namely my parents, my sibling, and their partners. And my idea for this was to go on a 6-mile beginner-friendly hike and then have dinner together afterwards. But the real problem with this situation is my brother's girlfriend. For context, she used to be like morbidly obese, and for many reasons wasn't able to be very physically active. So because of that, for the past 5 years, I've always chosen birthday activities that don't involve much walking or really much exercise just so everyone could participate. I never complained about it because honestly, I understood her situation. Well, about a year and a half ago, she underwent weight loss surgery and has ever since then lost a significant amount of weight. And now she really is at a healthy weight. However, she still doesn't like walking or hiking. Over the past several months, she has said multiple times that she finds walking boring and doesn't really see the point of it. She says that her body is still adjusting after the surgery, and honestly, I don't doubt that this may be true to some extent. At the same time, based on what she has said about herself, my personal impression is that the bigger issue is simply that she doesn't enjoy walking or any other activities that involve a lot of movement, which is rather than just being physically unable to do them. The hike I planned is specifically meant for beginners. It's about 6 miles long and it's mostly flat. Plus, it has plenty of places to sit and rest and get food, or even stop entirely early if we needed to. So when I suggested it, my brother immediately told me that neither he nor his girlfriend would come if I chose that activity, in which I said, okay, I completely understood, and then I offered a compromise. I said that those who wanted to go on the hike could do so, while anyone who didn't want to could just skip it. They could relax somewhere else, and then everyone could meet up afterwards for dinner at a restaurant. But when I said this, my brother actually got angry with me and called me selfish and egotistical. He said I was deliberately excluding his girlfriend and that I should be more considerate. And now my own mother has gotten involved and is also pressuring me to change my birthday plans just so my brother's girlfriend can also participate. I've even offered to shorten the hike, but ever since then, they've basically ghosted me. I genuinely don't want to exclude anyone, but at the same time, I feel like I've spent years choosing activities that accommodate one person. And you know what? For my own birthday, just for once, I'd like to do something that I actually enjoy. So am I the jerk here? Because I really just don't know what to make of this. Okay, dude, I would not go on any kind of hike with these people, and I probably wouldn't even want to, like, I don't know, spend my birthday with them, because, dude, these people are so disrespectful. Why are you expected to be the one to, like, accommodate this snobby girlfriend? You literally said, like, hey, if you don't want to go on the hike, then don't go for it. And yet still, you're being called selfish and egotistical? Like, what are we talking about? Like, they do know this is your birthday, right? Your activities can be whatever you want. You don't have to cater to these people. Like, what is going on right now? So just like a lot of the people in the comment section of this post, in my opinion, I would go on a hike by myself, or at least find some friends who actually care about my existence. Like, I wouldn't spend any time with his family on my birthday. I would be like, okay, you guys don't appreciate me and I'm not putting up with this. So I'm gonna go do my own thing and you guys can have a happy birthday without me, because this sucks. These people are being super selfish. Your brother's girlfriend is just lazy and super annoying, and I just don't think you should be required to accommodate that in the slightest. My wife has been having a secret affair and has been cheating on me for quite a while. But now that she found out that she's pregnant, I've decided to kick her out of my house once and for all. But now family and friends are coming back saying that I'm overreacting and that I should help a pregnant woman in need. But right now I am so angry that I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. I'm a 24-year-old female, and my wife and I have been together for several years. We met in college and our connection was instant. Over time, our relationship grew deeper and we decided to get married about a year ago. We've always been each other's best friends and confidants, and I truly believe that we were meant to be together forever. We've talked about starting a family, traveling, and growing old together. A few months ago, I started noticing that my wife was acting differently. She became more distant and secretive, and I felt like something was off, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I tried talking to her about it, but she always reassured me that everything was fine and that she was just stressed out from work. Now, I wanted to believe her, so I just let it go, thinking that maybe I was just being paranoid. However, a few weeks ago, I accidentally saw a message on her phone that confirmed my worst fears. She was having an affair. The text messages were explicit, and it was clear that this wasn't a one-time thing. When I confronted her, she broke down and confessed to everything. She had been seeing this person for a few months, and to make matters worse, she told me that she was pregnant with their child, and I was completely shattered. The woman I loved, the person I trusted more than anyone else in the world, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I could not even process the fact that she was pregnant. It was like a nightmare that I could not wake up from. After the initial shock wore off, I realized that I couldn't stay in this marriage. The trust was broken beyond repair, and I didn't see any way that we could move forward. I told her that she needed to leave our home. I know she's pregnant, and I know that this is a difficult time for her, but I couldn't bear the thought of living under the same roof, especially after what she did. I didn't yell or scream, but I just told her calmly that she had to go. Ever since then, our mutual friends and even some of her family members have reached out to me telling me that I'm being too harsh. They argue that she's pregnant and needs support, and that I should stand by her despite what happened. They've tried to make me feel guilty, saying that I'm abandoning her when she needs me the most, and some have even accused me of being heartless for kicking out a pregnant woman. But from my perspective, she's the one who broke our vows and betrayed our relationship. I am heartbroken, and I don't feel like I owe her anything after what she did. I need time and space to heal, and I don't think I can do that if she's still in my life. I have offered to help her find a place to stay, but I just cannot have her here. So am I the jerk for asking my wife to leave after she cheated on me and got pregnant? I know it's a tough situation, especially with the pregnancy involved, but I don't think I can move past this betrayal. I'm not sure if I'm being too harsh or if my feelings are justified. What should I do? Wow, there is no way that you're possibly the jerk in this situation. First of all, any mutual friend or family member that is seriously saying, "Oh, come on, stop being so harsh on her. She only cheated on you. It's not that big of a deal. You need to support a pregnant woman." Like, what are these people talking about? They have this all backwards, because the original poster, in my opinion, should only have to support their child. Like, this lady cheated on the original poster. They got pregnant and now they're stuck with that, and now they're like, "Oh man, I've completely messed up my life." So in my opinion, if we really want to support this lady who got pregnant, then maybe it's time for the mutual friends and family to step up. I always love it whenever people who are like trying to defend somebody who cheated or somebody who did something wrong to another person by basically implying that the person who's offended is actually the person at fault instead of the person who stole or cheated or lied or whatever might be going on. Like, this is a classic case of people victim blaming in like the worst way possible. And if I was in your shoes, I would not stand that for a second. I would not allow these people to try and guilt trip you into taking your wife back into your life. Because trust me, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My sister is trying to plan her gender reveal party on my 21st birthday, and right now I am very upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old female, and for a bit of context, I live in an entirely different state from my family. I've been away from them for about 8 months, and I visited maybe about 2 times. I am turning 21 in a month, and I have a birthday trip planned with my roommate. We were originally going to go to Disneyland and then meet up with my mom and sister in Las Vegas, but these plans changed since finding out that my sister was pregnant and she can't fly. So instead, my mom is flying me and my roommate home for my birthday. After I got the flights, she told me to talk to my sister since she wanted to go to a restaurant that we had been to before for my birthday. Well, today I received a text message from my sister sister, asking when I'm going to be home so that she can plan her gender reveal. I gave her my dates, and she asked me what time I get in on my birthday. I ask if she's trying to plan her gender reveal on my birthday, and she tells me it's the only day that works for everybody. And by everyone, I mean about 14 plus people. Well, I tell her that I will not be going if she decides to do that. She then gets upset with me and asked me why. And at this point, I put my foot down and I told her no again, to which I receive one final message. Are you sure? Because that's the only day that works with everybody else's schedule. Otherwise, we're gonna have to do Saturday the 31st if you won't go that Sunday. But the thing is, that Sunday is my birthday. She seems to see nothing wrong with the entire situation, and I am seriously at such a loss for words. What should I do? Yeah, your sister does not sound very smart, because it sounds like she can have the gender reveal party on the 31st, and you can still have your birthday party on that Sunday. Like seriously, that sounds really annoying, and I don't blame you for getting upset. She can also do this on literally any other day besides your birthday. Like seriously, your sister is just coming off as incredibly entitled and very selfish. I also find that gender reveal parties are really stupid in my opinion, so if you really wanted to be petty, just don't show up. Spend time with your friend and have fun with like, I don't know, literally anybody else. But if she really wants to push and be like, oh no, we're doing this on your birthday, then in my opinion, I would just go off and do my own thing. I would not allow this lady to take away from your birthday party, especially your 21st birthday party, which you know what, in my opinion, that is a big deal. So hopefully your sister can like come to her senses and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, because what she's trying to do right now, in my opinion, is incredibly toxic. An entitled old jerk ramps me with their shopping cart, screaming that I'm going too slow and I need to get out of their way. And despite the fact that I tried to talk reason into this guy, he refused to listen, choosing to instead hit me with his cart harder and harder. And I've honestly never been more angry at anybody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a few weeks ago. I ran into Trader Joe's to grab a couple of things before the weekend, and one of the things that I was asked to get was a very specific kind of soup. Now, Trader Joe's was moderately busy, but for some reason, the seasoning and soup aisle was absolutely nuts. I waited my turn, and when I was up, I scanned the shelf to find the soup I was looking for. Now, I didn't see it, so I squat down to scan the lower shelf. Well, it was at that moment that this old entitled jerk proceeded to hit me with his cart. I wasn't paying attention, so I thought it was an accident. So I looked up and I said, oh, I'm sorry, I'll be just a second. To which this entitled jerk responded by saying, move it, you're too slow. And then he rammed me with his cart even harder. I then looked at him and I said in a calm voice, do it again and you'll see how fast I can actually move. He then got this smug look on his face and proceeded to ram me with his cart even harder. Now at this point, I saw a Trader Joe's associate moving towards us, but I was absolutely pissed. I had kind of an awful day, so I just stood up and mule kicked the cart into his middle section, sending him straight to the ground. Now to be honest, in retrospect, I'm not proud of this, and I recognize not only was my response disproportionate to the offense, but I could have also injured this guy seriously. He was easily into his 70s and slightly overweight. Now I'm not a big guy at 5'8", but I do run, I work out, and I generally take care of myself. The Trader Joe's associate helped him up and told him to leave immediately. He sputtered and pointed at me, and one of the associates just said, we saw the whole thing, so please just leave. Now reluctantly, he left and they approached me. The one gentleman introduced himself as the assistant manager, and he said to me, look, we saw everything, but next time, please just come get one of us. I then asked him if he needs me to stick around to make some kind of formal report, as in like call the police, but he responded by saying, no, this guy has a history of coming in here and being rude and obnoxious to other customers, but he's never done anything like this. We're gonna talk to the manager and get this guy banned. I then thanked him and I paid for my groceries and then I left. And what's really crazy is that when I recounted this to my friends, over half of them had stories that were similar to this. So it really leaves me wondering what in the world is wrong with people, because this aggressive behavior is incredibly inappropriate. Okay, for starters, I am so glad you defended yourself. This guy rammed his cart into you multiple times. He did this on purpose and he wanted to hurt you. So in my opinion, the way you reacted was not disproportionate. Sure, you should have probably talked to an associate of some kind, but this situation kind of demanded something a little bit more aggressive. And in my opinion, if I was in your situation, I probably would have reacted the same way, because there is a difference between someone accidentally bumping into you in the supermarket and someone intentionally trying to hit you in the head with their cart. One's accidental and the other one's like attempted assault. So I see no problem with you kicking that cart right back at this guy. Like he's the one that started this inappropriate behavior. And just because this guy's in his 70s doesn't mean that you have to put up with this behavior for a second. I don't care if they're 70 or 17. Intentionally ramming into someone with a shopping cart, all because they're squatting down to check if there's soup on the shelf, is literally such an awful thing to to do to somebody, and there's absolutely no excuse for it. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that I can't make her a wedding dress despite making them for 2 other friends, all because of the time that I won't have to make the wedding dress in the first place? Because right now she is very pissed off and claiming that I have favorites in our friend group, and at this point I really don't know what to do. I'm a 38-year-old female, and I'm a dressmaker with my own shop. It's been a custom in my friend group that my wedding gift to my friends who marry has been an original wedding dress made to their taste, and I've done this for 2 of my friends. I love my job and my friends, so it has been an easy choice for me. However, I am currently 26 weeks pregnant with my first child, and I'm now trying to lessen my workload as I prepare for my maternity leave and pass larger projects over to my employees. My friend informed me last night that she is getting married, and I was of course so happy for her and I congratulated her. She then asked if I would be making a dress for her, and I told her of course. I asked her for the date and she said it's going to be January 19th. And you know what? That was fine. It would be a year and 5 months away, which would be perfect. That would give me plenty of times to create the designs and to make it, and I expressed all of this to her, but she corrected me. She wasn't getting married January 19th, 2026 like I assumed, but instead it's going to be January 19th, 2025. Now, I was a bit shocked at this, and I told her that if that's the date that she's picked out, I would have to take back my promise, as there's no way I can make her dress in that time frame, as I'll not be too long postpartum. I asked her to reconsider the date if she wanted me to make the dress, pointing out that 5 months wasn't enough time to plan a wedding anyways, but she insisted that she still wanted it. Now, I didn't push it as it was up to her, but I made it clear that I will not be able to make her dress. Well, she didn't understand this at all, pointing out how I'll be taking off work soon anyways, and said that I could just use that time to make her dress. Now, I will admit in hindsight that I got a bit snappy here, and she likely didn't realize just how much work goes into a wedding dress, but I asked her if she had hit her head, and why she would think it's okay to ask me to put stress on my pregnancy for her wedding dress. Well, ever since then, she's been putting messages in the group chat calling me out for this and saying how it's easy to tell who my favorites are and that it's clear her feelings are very hurt. Now, at this point, I'm annoyed, but also I'm feeling a bit regretful about this. I can't trust my employees to make wedding dresses without me, as their skill level is just not up to par, but maybe I could have a rehearsal dinner dress made for her, or even a reception dress made to try and make up for the custom dress that she wants. So am I the jerk for not being able to make this dress? What should I do? Yeah, your friend is incredibly selfish. The fact that she thinks that you, while you're on pregnancy leave, can just make her a dress in what, 5 months flat? Like seriously, you are 26 weeks pregnant. You're about to give birth to your first child, and you're already under so much stress as it is. It is ignorant for her to assume that, oh wow, you're not making it because you don't like me. It's like, what are you talking about? This has nothing to do with liking or not liking you. But if anything, this literally is all about time. She's giving you no time to, I don't know, have a baby and also do this stupid wedding dress. And in my opinion, the fact that she's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put messages in the group chat and call you out. Like if I was in your shoes and the second I saw that, I would have gone scorched earth and been like, oh, we're definitely not friends anymore and you will never get anything from me ever again. Because your pregnancy is no joke. You need all your time and attention towards that, and that really is the most important thing in your life right now. And the fact that she does not care about that, but only wants you to take all that time off to make a wedding dress for her, in my opinion, shows exactly how selfish she is and how little she thinks about you and your future baby. I canceled my fiance's dream wedding, all because it was absurdly expensive. And now, after being pressured by both my fiance and her family, I now feel like I'm at a crossroads and I now don't know what to do. I'm a 25-year-old male, and I've been with my fiance for about 5 years. We had one breakup a few years ago because I had a lot of personal things going on in my life, like a death in the family and a major surgery that reduced the mobility in my hand, which I was very bummed out about. She claimed that I neglected her and then she left me. It's worth noting that I'm not from the country that we live in, and I have no family here and only have a few friends, whereas she has lived her whole life here and is much more well established. Long story short, 6 months went by and we bumped into each other and things sort of started up again, and they were going well for a while. Then in 2022, I proposed to her and we were engaged. We didn't start wedding planning until 2023, so I managed to get a good job and had a decent amount of savings while she was still studying, but then I lost my job due to an immigration issue, and essentially, I had to use all the savings I had to apply for the right visa. The month after I lost my job, she got a job. I couldn't find a new job while my visa was processing, which ended up taking about 6 months. So she chose a venue that she loved, and by January of 2024, I was already accumulating debt. The wedding that she wanted was estimated to cost around $30,000, and that's excluding flights and visas for my family to come into the country. I made it clear to her that this was not affordable to me and she was putting an immense amount of pressure on me. Now, against my wishes, she paid the deposit for the venue and sent out invitations, all whilst constantly putting pressure on me to pay up at least half. I was already in a lot of debt and I was living as simply as I possibly could to preserve money for food. As a result of me not paying, she involved her dad, who said some pretty nasty things about me, all while he himself lost his job and was on the verge of bankruptcy. This period went on for about a month, and her family offered to pay the majority of the expenses with the expectation that I pay them back. But I refused this after what was said to me and how I was treated. She was adamant that if the wedding didn't go through, then our relationship would be over. This was back in May of 2024, and ultimately the wedding was canceled. She was pretty upset about this and said some awful things to me, but stayed with me. I then continued my job search, and I told her that if she gives me some time to get a job and earn some money again, I will give her the wedding that she wants. And that was our plan. We stopped meeting as often as we used to, and there was a sense of awkwardness and often arguments. I finally did end up getting a job around my birthday towards the middle of the year, and just before my birthday, she decided to tell her friends the wedding was off, and she just completely ghosted me. This created some anxiety in me, as I had finally got a job after almost a year of being unemployed, and she also ditched me on my birthday, which was really rough. I eventually spoke to her on the phone, and she was already quite intoxicated and proceeded to tell me that it was over and she doesn't want this anymore, and it took her time to finally process it. She swore at my family and me for manipulating her and doing her dirty. After that conversation, I just stopped texting her, and she has blocked me on social media, and from what I heard, she is going in heavy on the partying and the drinking. It's worth noting that before canceling the wedding, I did tell her that I would pay her back for the deposit and we could have a smaller and simpler wedding or just delay it, but she outright refused to accept this. I still wanted to marry her, but it seemed the wedding was more important to her than the marriage. I think it's also important to note that she often threw back in my face about how small her ring was and how she didn't even like the proposal. Now, it's important to note that where I come from, we are legally married but not religiously married, as that was the point of the upcoming ceremony, which is important in both of our cultures. So divorce in this sense means legal fees and a lot of documents. Secondly, I am getting a lot of comments implying that I used her for immigration purposes, which is sort of hurtful because I was happy to return to my home country, and I may still do so due to the lack of support that I have here. She is the one that pushed for the legal marriage so that we could be in the same country, and I was against the idea. Regardless though, I am now in debt, and I have to work to pay all of that off. Before the legal ceremony, when she was unemployed, she explicitly said that she doesn't want financial strain on her family or on mine. But this quickly changed as my bank balance drained in legal costs, and hers rose as she got a new job. And please keep in mind, I was clear and explicit about wanting a small wedding, as most of my family would not be coming anyways before we legally got married. So this all is honestly such a mess, and I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, the pressure that she put on you, as well as what her family put on you to try and get this wedding going, in my opinion, is insane. That is so inappropriate, and it's so inconsiderate of your situation. You literally don't have two pennies to rub together, and these people are expecting you to pay thousands of dollars at the bare minimum just to get this wedding going that you're not even ready for. Like, I'm kind of glad that things broke off between the two of you, and hopefully you're able to get away from her completely, because the way she's acting is honestly insane, and I'm truly sorry that you had to deal with this in the first place. Am I the jerk for returning the bag my husband bought me, all because I didn't want the rude sales assistant to get any commission off of our purchase? Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I've never experienced a sales assistant being so rude to me before, so maybe I overreacted here, but last week I was looking for a birthday gift. There was only one free sales assistant, and I could tell that she didn't want me to approach her, as she was intentionally avoiding eye contact and walking away when I was close. I waited about 10 minutes in hopes that anybody else would show up and be free for me, but they weren't, and it was getting late, so I approached the original assistant. Well, she pretty much just brushed me off without helping me, so I went back to browsing on my own, as my husband was going to meet me there. But when my husband arrived, her entire demeanor changed, and she suddenly wanted to do her job. I was looking at a bag that I would have bought for myself if it wasn't for the rude sales assistant. My husband asked me if I wanted to get it, but I said no, as the rude lady would have been the one to benefit from the commission, because at this point, she had come over and was offering to help us out. Well, a few days later, my husband surprised me with the exact same bag. I asked him if he got it from the same place and if it was with the same sales assistant who helped him before. Well, that's when he told me that it was. So I told him that I wanted to return it. He knows that she was rude and dismissive when I tried to ask her for help, but he still didn't want me to return the bag, as he said mad that I would be missing out because of a random stranger. To him, the commission isn't a big deal, but I don't think she should benefit after how rude she was. If he had bought the bag with a different sales assistant, I would have kept it. But since he didn't, I returned it. And now he's upset because I returned his gift. So am I the jerk for returning this all because of that stupid lady at the store? What should I do? No, I don't really blame you for returning the bag, especially when you have a sales assistant acting really rude and dismissive. And she only perks up when your husband shows up. Like seriously, that's already super inappropriate, and I don't blame you for being upset. It's also unbelievable to me that your husband didn't buy this from literally any other sales assistant. Like, why did he go to the sales assistant that he knew was rude to you in the beginning? Like, does he have a bad memory or something? Like, why would you do that? And sure, maybe it was a little bit petty to return it all because you wanted to get back at this sales assistant, but at the same time, I don't blame you for going back. And in my opinion, I would definitely go to a store manager and explain the situation, because that lady's poor attitude lost a sale, and that is not fair for you in the slightest. My entitled, creepy grandmother not only cannot accept the fact that I'm a grown adult, but also is claiming to anybody within earshot that my future twins actually belong to her. And after dealing with some really creepy comments, as well as some awful behavior by my grandmother, I'm now left at an impasse, where right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I feel super conflicted. I'm a 25-year-old female, and my 69-year-old grandmother simply cannot accept the fact that I am grown and acts incredibly entitled to my children. She is genuinely nice most of the time, but there are things that she does frequently that really aggravate me. For some background, I'm the first grandchild, and I'm definitely the favorite. And trust me, I am not saying this to brag. My mom had me when she was 17 years old, and my biological dad nor any of his family ever had anything to do with me. This meant that she's the only grandmother I ever had until my mom married my stepdad when I was 8. My mother and I lived with my grandmother up until that point, and even after we moved out, I would still visit her or spend the night with her all the time for years. I sort of slowed down on visiting all the time when I began college because I had a full-time job as well. For the past few years, I will typically see her maybe once or twice a month, and each time I talk to her or whenever I visit, she will make comments about how she's sad that I don't spend the night with her anymore, or that I just don't visit as much, despite me being a 25-year-old married woman with literally 2 kids on the way and a job. She complains that I don't call her enough, but the phone literally goes both ways. In her words, she sits at home and does nothing all day, so why would she not think to call her family members or something like that? Despite my age, she still treats me as a literal baby. She will occasionally start rubbing my butt and start singing a nursery rhyme, which is something she used to do when I was a baby. Every time she does it, I jump and I move forward, and she'll say to me, "Oh, don't act like that. You used to laugh and laugh when I would do that." And I would say, "Yeah, when I was a toddler, but I'm 25 now." And she'll say to me, "You're always going to be grandma's baby, and I'll rub it and pat it whenever I want." And then she'll just start laughing. One time, my grandmother, my mom, my sister, and I all went on vacation together. We shared one hotel room with 2 beds, and my sister was in the bathroom and I wanted to change, so I told my mom and grandmother not to look my way because I was changing my clothing. My grandmother then said to me, "I'm gonna look." So I was like, "Why?" And I let out an uncomfortable laugh, and she said to me, "It's not like I haven't seen you naked before." So again, I reiterated, "Well, that's when I was a kid, but I'm an adult now." And she just laughed at me. It's like in her eyes, I never aged past the age of 10. She will be shocked and stunned when I suddenly like something that as a kid I used to hate, and the same thing applies vice versa. For example, I used to hate salads as a kid, but in my 20s I eat them all the time. She refuses to believe that I really like salads because 15 years ago I didn't. When she is finally convinced, she gets sad. She says things like, "I can't believe I don't know what my girl eats anymore," which I know isn't a huge deal, but paired with everything else, it's just another thing that really bothers me. Anyways, when I announced I was pregnant with twins, I announced it to all of my grandparents at once in person. But once I did this, my grandmother shrieked with joy, and she began sobbing right there on the spot. She then literally got in my step-grandmother's face, pointed and said, "Those are my babies, you hear me? They are mine." And my step-grandmother just sort of stood there and said, "Well, I guess I should be congratulating you then." And my grandmother says, "They're more like my grandbabies than great-grandbabies. And since I raised this girl, she's more like a daughter." Now, my mother gets a little uncomfortable by this, because while I did live with her for the first 8 years of my life, this doesn't replace my grandmother as my mother. My mother later asked me who I wanted to be at the hospital when I gave birth, and my grandmother interrupted me and said, "I will be at the hospital, just to let you know." And I just looked at her wide-eyed and I said, "I didn't say you could come to the hospital." But she just looked at me and said, "Oh, I know. I'm just saying that I will be there." And all of this has been amplified throughout my pregnancy. She refers to my children as her babies. She tells me that I shouldn't do certain things, such as carry a 5-pound duffel bag, all because I'm suddenly hurting her babies. Eventually, my mom, my grandma, and myself went baby clothes shopping, and there was a shirt that said Mama's Boy or something like that. And she pointed it out and said, "You don't even need to worry about buying a shirt like that. They're going to be Grandma's boys, so I'm settling that right now." She even refers to them as her babies to other people. I was at her house with my mom, and my great aunt called my grandmother. My great aunt asked, "Have you had your babies yet?" And my mom, who was stunned, asked, "Wait, what?" Well, my grandmother then turned and pointed to my stomach and said, "My babies," and then began rubbing my stomach. She even began saying in front of my mom, who is the actual grandma, "This is your grandma. You hear me? Your grandma." And sometimes, instead of acting super entitled, she will switch and act like she's completely outcasted. She will say things like, "I sure hope you let me see these boys at least sometime. It would be so sad if you didn't." And she says this for literally no reason at all. I have never stated that I would withhold them from her, but she acts like I'm never going to let her see them all out of the blue. All in all, the reason why I find it hard to set boundaries with her and why I feel so guilty is because my grandfather passed away when I was 18 years old. They were together for 40 years, and I know that she misses him dearly. She lives all by herself, and I understand that she is very lonely, but she has said that my kids have given her a purpose again, and that she feels excited to feel needed again, which is a big thing for her. For example, she got sad when my little sister got her first car because she simply wouldn't need her anymore to take her to school. She has done a lot for me and my family, and while I do love her a lot, these things that she does really just drive me up a wall. It's like she's trying to take the place of both my mother and I when it comes to my children. She lives completely in the past, and it seems like she almost resents the fact that I'm an adult and need to be treated with some kind of respect. She wasn't like this at all before my grandfather died, so I know it has to be something caused by grief. I just need to know, am I overreacting by being uncomfortable and annoyed by all of these things? My mom gets annoyed with her a lot, so she understands, but my stepdad tells me that I'm being too sensitive. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, I think it's very important to set boundaries like right now. For starters, I would never allow that woman to touch me ever again. Like, I don't care what the circumstances are at all. If I was in your shoes, this lady would absolutely be crossing a serious boundary for me. Like the whole rubbing the belly and patting the butt thing, like that is really weird. And also her trying to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna look at you change and watch you get naked." It's like, dude, what are we doing right now? That is so creepy and weird. So that would be step one for me of like, yeah, you're definitely never doing that again. But also, in my opinion, if this was my grandmother acting that way, I would absolutely speak up and set the ground rules very clearly in front of all of us. I would correct her anytime she tries to act like, "Oh, those are my babies," especially with the way she acted towards your step grandma. Like that would have been like, "Hold up, time out, what on earth are you doing?" Like that kind of behavior absolutely deserves to be ridiculed and corrected right there on the spot. It is not a scenario where we should just let it slide, because that kind of crap is just unacceptable in my opinion. And that kind of leads me to like another point. It seems like everybody in the family is letting her behavior slide, and nobody's really correcting her because she always plays the guilt-tripping route. She not only wants to have these kids all to herself, but then she covers the bases of like, "Oh, I hope you actually let me see them." Like she's playing the obsessive great-grandmother, but also trying to spin it as if you don't want her around so that maybe you feel forced to allow her to be around your kids. Like she's playing all sides of the field at the same time, and it all comes off as like super manipulative. So in my opinion, based on the way she's acting, I think you need to set boundaries right now and make it very clear that these babies are your children and not her property. Because her behavior, in my opinion, and I really do mean this, it comes off as very alarming and incredibly creepy. And if she starts acting up in the way that she's acted before, in my opinion, it is absolutely time to speak up and correct her for the weird things that she's saying. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled mom has treated me like garbage for years, and now that I'm on the verge of moving out, it's all hit a breaking point because right now I really don't know what to do. So for a bit of background, my parents divorced a few years ago, and before that, my mother and I were inseparable, and I always told her everything. Meanwhile, I didn't talk to my dad much at all. Shortly after the divorce, my mom started dating, and I supported her relationship because she found herself in good company. I don't particularly like this man myself, but I still go out with him. My father found a wife with a teenage daughter, and I like them both. We get along along well and I joke around with them all the time. Now, my mother was jealous for a long time because I spent time with my father and my new stepmother. I think she was afraid I would replace her. I liked it more at my dad's because my friends were still there and my dad didn't nag me about every little thing. My mother used to scream so loudly at me when I was little that the neighbors could hear the screams all the way outside. And this is in regards to like forgetting to do my homework or if I didn't hear her calling me into the living room. Now, I was really having fun at my dad's place, but I didn't want to spend any more time in my mom's flat, so I wanted to move in on my own. The perfect opportunity came about half a year ago when my grandfather's tenant moved out, and that's when I finally got to live on my own. Well, my mom heard about this and was a little bit upset that I didn't wait until the end of high school to move out. She even said to me, "It's good that you're moving out so you don't have to suffer from me." And before I moved, my mom was very busy blaming me for literally everything. For example, I had either forgotten my keys in my room or they were at the bottom of my bag and I just couldn't find them. I had just come from the opening night of our school play. It was getting closer to midnight and I tiredly called my mother to see if she could come and unlock the door. Well, she came in angry and started shouting loudly. She said to me, "Get ready to pack all your stuff. I've been thinking that you should move in with your father completely. I am not your servant." And at this point, I was still living half with my mom and half with my dad at the time. I was going to my room to pack my overnight stuff, and my friend, who we will call Sam, was coming to pick me up at my dad's place. She then said to me, "You're just like your dad. You take advantage of me, and then when you don't need me anymore, you're just angry and awful towards me. I am only human." Now, at this point, I snapped because I've heard that phrase from so many awful people, and I just don't like it one bit. She then said to me, "Oh well, you just think I'm an awful person." And despite the fact that I told her no, I don't think that, she just kept saying over and over again, "Yes, you do. You definitely do." And at this point, I just rushed down the hallway to wait for my ride, even though she wasn't supposed to fetch me for maybe about half an hour. So many of these kinds of pointless tantrums had already happened, so I think you can vaguely understand why I wanted to move out on my own. Every single time, she managed to mention how she was only human. She would say to me, "I always think you don't spend time with me when you're here, and you just always get away with housework and all this stuff, and you don't do anything with me. You would probably rather go where you feel good than stay with me, but you're always in your own room sulking." But I responded by saying, "Yeah, hey, I'd probably feel better talking to you and spending time with you if you didn't start complaining about everything every single time. And this is just a little thing." She then said to me, "You only like me when I smile. I can't smile all the time." But I just said, "You don't have to as long as you don't complain all the time. I was ready to watch a movie with you tonight, but you said no." And then she said, "No, you weren't." And after having enough of this, I just said, "Yes, I was." And then I slammed my door and went back to my room because my company just wasn't good enough, even though it's what she wanted. She would say stuff to me like, "You always get angry right away. You only come to me when you need help or money. You surely don't behave like that with your father. Your father and stepmother must treat you better than I do, and always in your best interest, of course. That's probably why you wanted to go on holiday with them far away from me. This is just who I am." Well, you're giving it away right now. Would you rather be with your father than here if it's so nice there? And this just goes on and on for dozens of minutes almost every single day. Now, in response to that wonderful rage, she guilt trips me into love and apologies. She will say to me, "I love you beyond measure. You're the best gift I've ever received. I don't like it when you're here and you spend all your time in your own room. Homework could be done in the same room as me, you know. But the time you spend in the same room as me is always face down. I mean, I was able to be with you when you were younger, even though your father wasn't. And that's why you were only in half daycare, so I could be with you more. And I still want to, but the difference is that now I have no energy." But it's like, first of all, why are you complaining about not having enough time with me if you are literally not up for it? And secondly, my dad was working at the time and she wasn't. Third, I was a child, and that's what parents are supposed to do. They're supposed to spend time with their children. She would say to me, "I don't know what I did wrong that you don't dare tell me things, and you just shut yourself in your own room." Now, the apex of all of this is when I had borrowed her car so I could drive my friend from one place to another for a couple of hours. We had an agreement that I could use her car all summer whenever I needed to, if I paid for the fuel myself, as her commute was within walking distance. So I was returning the car, and she was taking me back to my place. I was telling her about my travel plans for next spring with a friend, as she asked what countries we were thinking about. I said to her, "Well, Ireland would be nice to visit again, but my friend would like to see the place better, as it would be a new country for her." My mom then said, "It might not be worth going as it's slower to get around, and you might want to go on your own trip." She then said, "And you should probably rent your own car if you're going to be in the country for a long period of time. And at that point, I was thinking to myself, well, that's not what I meant at all. Do you ever listen to me? Like, let me have a say in this. She then fired back at me and said, will you let your father have a say? Or even your stepmother? I'm only good for when you need a car or want money or know that you'll need money in the future. Otherwise, you just can't contact me. And I'm thinking, yeah, because the time that you see me, you're either screaming at me or getting angry. But anytime I tell her that, she would say, I'm only human. She then said to me, no need to drive all the way to the yard. Just leave it on the road and I'll leave right away. Then you can tell me how much money you need for the trip next spring. No need to contact me ever again. And then she just drove off. Now, I'm not surprised this actually happened, and I had been waiting for it, but not for a reason like this. My plan was to slowly meet her from time to time and maybe leave it at that so we could see each other at family gatherings without the awkwardness and maybe in some way heal our relationship. But now I can understand that that's not it. I don't know what I should do about my graduation and such, and I don't want her to come because she would only get angrier and more insulted if I didn't allow her to be there. She might contact me before that anyways, so she could be invited since my career path and life has been so important to her. But now I tell my dad everything, and I just come along with him and his new family, so it is a win. But I still don't know what to do about my mother. What should I do? Honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would invite her to my graduation, but that would be it. Like, that would be the final concluding moment in my relationship with my mom in that regard, because the way she's acting is so toxic and so unnecessary. Like, seriously, just look at the way she's acting towards you and literally all your life choices. Nothing you ever do is good enough, and she's always just waiting to say some awful thing towards you. And like, that is just so unacceptable, and you do not deserve to deal with that, regardless of if she's your mom or not. Like, she's clearly bitter about this divorce or something like that, and she's just taking it out on you in ways that you do not deserve. So hopefully your life with your dad and your stepmom can be a lot better than what your mom is giving you, because she sounds like an awful person, and I don't blame you for trying to move on. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she is ruining her child's life by giving him an iPad that he can use 24/7 without any restrictions? Because right now she is very angry with me, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my sister and her husband have a 10-year-old kid who we will call Jimothy, who me and my husband sometimes babysit on the weekends, and on some days I take him to school. As of about a year ago, we started to notice that Jimothy was beginning to develop an American accent. For reference, we are Australian, and small kids have phases, so I didn't want to make this into a thing. But over the next few months, the accent got thicker and Jimothy became more irritable. Me and my husband brought this up with my sister, who said that Jimothy wasn't very grumpy when he was with her. He then started losing interest in almost all activities that he used to enjoy. And again, this was a concern for me, and every weekend it just got so much worse. He would complain of being bored when we would offer an exhaustive list of all the things we could do with him, and he would just say no to every single one of them. The school year for 2024 started, and on the weekend after that, Jimothy told us that his teacher and a few classmates had asked him how long he'd been in the United States before moving to Australia, because at this point, his American accent was indistinguishable from a general American accent, and my husband and I were really wondering what was happening. Then it was Jimothy's birthday party. His family was invited, including me, and so were all of his friends. And this was the moment that made me realize to some extent what was going on. He was on an iPad, scrolling some kind of short-form content that I did not recognize. His friends wanted to play with him, and he just did not notice that they were even there. People were giving him presents, and he acted like he was inconvenienced for having to turn the iPad off. Never before had any of my nieces or nephews reacted like this upon me giving them money and a delicious treat. I told my sister that something was going on, and that Jimothy is obviously not in a good way. She seemed very offended that I was questioning her parenting choices, as she put it, and she decided that me and my husband babysitting Jimothy had to stop. Well, the next time I saw Jimothy was very recently at my niece's birthday party with a different set of parents, and Jimothy was completely glued to the iPad. He was noticeably skinnier, which I suspect was because he was forgetting to eat in favor of spending more time on his iPad. And when anyone went over to talk to him, he would almost instinctively push the screen towards his body so nobody could see. Now, at this point, I had to talk to my sister and her husband. I told them what I thought, that a year ago, Jimothy was an energetic kid who got along really well with everybody, but now he's reclusive, and it's obvious from just looking at him that he is absolutely skipping meals. My sister denied any changes in Jimothy's behavior, but her husband did admit that I was right to some extent, and Jimothy's friends stopped trying to hang out with him because he said no 100% of the time. I told my sister that she was wrecking Jimothy's life by continuing to let this iPad stuff happen, and at that point she started shouting at me and then walked out of the party. So I really need to know. Am I the jerk for saying what I did to my sister? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. I don't think you're the jerk personally because I think you're completely right. This kid is very clearly addicted to his iPad, and he is clearly not being monitored by his parents, and they're using that iPad as like a babysitter instead of monitoring him more closely. Like, this kid absolutely has a problem and it needs to be addressed. And I don't know if you've run into a kid who's like addicted to their iPad, but I definitely have, and they are a nightmare to deal with. Like, seriously, I've seen a kid lose his mind, go absolutely insane because somebody took his iPad away. Like, it did not matter what was happening around them, they literally only wanted the iPad and nothing else would make them happy. So I think you expressing that to your sister and her husband, in my opinion, was some very well-needed tough love, because these people just don't get it. They clearly don't see what they're doing to their son, and they're also not even watching what this kid is watching. Like, really, if the American accent wasn't a dead giveaway, that their son is clearly watching way too much content online, then I really just don't know what else is going to get through to these people. Because eventually, it's going to be too little too late, and this kid's going to turn into a real monster and be completely antisocial and just a weird kid in general when he becomes a teenager. So no, you're not the jerk by telling your sister exactly what's going on, because her lack of accountability is going to ruin her child. My toxic entitled manager tells me that I should quit my job as she feels that I'm not cut out to be a waiter at her restaurant. But after dealing with her nasty attitude, as well as her mistreatment on a daily basis, I finally decided to stand up for myself in a way that I never thought I'd ever be able to do. Here's what happened. So I started working at a casual dining restaurant about 2 weeks ago, and this was my first job in the service industry. I was not actually trained or anything like that, and I just had to learn as I went by observing my coworkers and looking stuff up online. The job was absolutely awful. The owner didn't know what she was doing, everything was extremely disorganized, the waiters would take their stress out on me, and I was constantly given contradictory instructions. For example, they would say that my top priority should be taking food to the customers, but then when I would do that, they would scream at me and be like, "Oh, don't take the food to the customers, that's not your assigned task." I was expected to know things that I couldn't possibly know if I wasn't told. My manager and the owner expected me to simply read their minds. I was working over 9 hours a day, 6 days a week, and they did not pay extra hours, even though most days we would work from 1 to 3 hours more than we were supposed to. I was struggling a lot, trying to find a way to improve and deal with the stress of this job while working with frankly awful people. But I realized that I love being a waiter. I'm great with customers, I'm quick, I learn fast, and I've got a lot of stamina. During my last 2 shifts, I found a strategy to avoid getting overwhelmed that really was working wonders. I basically just pretended I was having the time of my life, and I started to believe it. I was singing along to the music, smiling and joking around with the customers, being kind to my coworkers, and I really thought I had it all under control. But then, my manager approaches me at the beginning of the Sunday night shift and says to me something that honestly blew my mind. She said, "To be honest, we don't think you're cut out for this line of work. The service industry is very stressful, and you cannot handle this level of stress. In fact, I don't think you ever will be able to handle it. I wouldn't even try to work at a restaurant again if I were you. Some people just can't do this type of thing, and you're one of them." Now, my sensitive and empathetic personality has always been something I don't really like, so her words really hurt me. I was just starting to turn things around and use what I consider my flaws as a tool. And yes, I'm sensitive and empathetic, and people's bad moods can get me down, and thus I started to put my best foot forward, connect with customers and treat them with the kindness and empathy that I would show a good friend. I decided to fight everyone's foul mood by being in such high spirits that it was essentially impossible for them to not smile. But my manager and the owner disliked me. They had started to treat me very harshly during my last few shifts, and I noticed this, but I was trying to pretend that everything was all right. I finished up my shift as well as I could, made sure every customer I served that night left with a smile on their face, and said goodbye to my coworkers and waited to get home to have a good cry. And now I'm devastated. I loved being a waiter despite the negative experiences at this restaurant. Before that shift, I was telling my friends that I believe perhaps this was the line of work for me, and it destroyed me to be told that actually I'm not cut out for this and that I never will be. So now I don't know what to do. I feel lost, and I'm afraid that my manager is right, and I'm just not strong enough for this line of work even though I loved it. I don't want to go back to office work, which can be as stressful, but without the benefit of interacting with customers face to face. What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update for this story. Here's what they had to say. So after the incident with my manager, I decided to quit, and yesterday, the owner called me to ask if I would be willing to try working at their second location, which is closer to my house and is a much smaller place. She told me that she believed I could handle it and that she knows the way I work and she trusts trusts me to give it a trial shift and see how I feel. And you know what? In a couple of hours, I'm going there to try it out. It's Friday and close to the holidays, so it will be packed. And this really should give me a good idea of how the team at this location functions under stress. So I'm very nervous but hopeful. I'm coming in a different person than I was when I started at the first location, especially given that I know the menu, their system, and I have some experience under my belt. But I really hope it all works out because the way I got treated at my other location was honestly so disrespectful. Wow, good for the original poster for seeing their worth and saying, you know what, I am not going to take this any longer. Because that manager is out of her mind if she thinks the way she acted is in any way appropriate. Like, what kind of manager would be like, I don't think you're cut out for this job and you should probably just quit. Like, you should just quit right now and never come back. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's pretty clear that the manager was just straight up miserable at her job, and she's only saying that because she knows that you're trying to make the best of your job, whereas she's given up on that idea probably decades ago. This is very obviously a loser trying to bring someone down to their level, and I'm so glad that you decided to put your foot down and say, I'm not working there ever again. But also, to the credit of the owner of these stores, it's nice to see that they saw that yes, you are a valuable member of the team, and that they have good reason to try and keep you around. But regardless, I really hope that manager gets reprimanded or best of all fired from their job, because any manager who's trying to like convince their workers to quit, all because they're jealous of the way that they're actually enjoying their job, in my opinion, has no business being a manager, because that kind of behavior is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My girlfriend broke up with me, all because I took my mother with me to the hospital, and now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so my girlfriend and I have been together for about 3 years now. Since the beginning of our relationship, all I can remember is my girlfriend hating my mother for absolutely no reason, and I mean genuinely no reason. She has openly admitted that she can't even tell me why she dislikes my mother so much, but it's so bad to the point where I'm not even allowed to talk to or see my mother without getting broken up with. About 6 days ago, I developed a severe case of tonsillitis, and I needed to go get a local anesthetic procedure done. Now, my mother is the one who controls our medical scheme, which means she needed to be there to fill out the forms and make the payments. Well, this resulted in a nightmare. Not only has my girlfriend broken up with me for it, but she has also given me the ultimatum to choose either her or my mother, and that I need to completely cut her out of my life, meaning that I would block her on everything and take myself off of every life and medical insurance that we share. Now, keep in mind that she has admitted to hating my mother for no reason. She has also told me that she'd be less upset if I cheated on her than if I spent time with my mom. Now, in my girlfriend's defense, 3 days ago before the procedure, she offered to come take care of me, to which I very politely declined because I had an extremely busy day trying to get my car fixed. So she has taken it very personally that I chose my mother to come with me to the procedure instead of her, when in reality, I simply just needed her there for logistical reasons. So now I feel completely lost and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, you should really be thanking your girlfriend for breaking up with you because she sounds insane. Like, seriously, what's going on right now? She is blatantly saying, hey, I hate your mom for no reason, and if you want to be with me, you need to cut all contact with her. And it's like, why should I do that? What, simply just because you don't like her for some mystery reason? Like, is this lady a sociopath or some kind of narcissist? Because she's given no reason as to why she doesn't like your mom. She just decided, oh, I hate her. You need to cut her off and block her on everything. So honestly, I think you should be thanking this lady for breaking up with you because she sounds insane. Like, this is not someone you want to have a relationship with. She also highly projected that, oh yeah, I'd be okay with you cheating, but don't talk to your mom. And that kind of seems like she's testing the waters, where the subtext kind of reads like, oh, if you cheated on me, I'd be okay with it, so you should be okay with me cheating on you. And that means to me, like, either she's completely out of her mind, or she's actively, like, currently cheating on you, and this is the only stupid reason she can come up with to try and, like, break things off. So truly, I would move on with my life and not look back, because your ex-girlfriend sounds like an absolute psychopath. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for telling my aunt that her kids are entitled little brats? Because after dealing with them for most of the day, I am seriously so sick of their behavior, and I really just can't take it any longer. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I was recently at a family gathering of all the relatives and their partners on my mom's side of the family. It's a pretty large family, and it was one of the first times I met one of my aunt's kids after COVID. This aunt, who we will call Nina, has 2 kids that are about 6 years old, and their names for the sake of the story will be Wayne and Eric. And I want to preface this by saying, yes, I I know they're little, and the kids were not anywhere in earshot when I talked to Nina. Anyways, these kids are a chore to be around. Normally, I love kids, but these kids are something else. The first thing that happened when we were having dinner is that Wayne walked up to me and said, "You're ugly." Now, I didn't take it too seriously. I mean, kids are like that, and I thought it was funny more than anything else. So I just kind of let out a giggle. This kid then gave me a look of pure hatred, and then he kicked me with a surprising amount of strength all before running away. And in fact, both of his parents were even at the table. The next morning, I woke up to screaming, and when I ran upstairs, Wayne is glued to his tablet, and Eric is screaming at my grandmother. She had tried to get him to move away from his phone to come down for breakfast. Eric was slapping and kicking grandmother, who is in her early 80s and has arthritis. So I let out a yell by saying, "How dare you?" I then proceeded to tell him more calmly that our grandmother deserves respect. This kid then looks me in the eye and says, "You're not the boss of me." But I just rolled my eyes and said, "Fine, but when mommy and daddy leave you here, you have to listen to grandma." He then looks at grandma and gives her a little smirk and says to her, "I'm gonna tell daddy that you hit me." And my grandmother started to explain that telling lies like that is very dangerous, but he just stomped up to the room. Now, as time went on, they got even moodier. One of them, I can't remember which one, knocked a bunch of stuff off the table before looking at my grandfather and saying, "I'm not cleaning this up. You can't make me." Now, their parents are present for these incidents, and they do literally nothing about it. Finally, Wayne walked up to me and said, "Your dad looks dirty." And mind you, my dad is Latin American. So I tried to calmly explain why this was not okay to say, but he ran away. I then went to find my aunt and tried to explain all the things that had happened. She said that they're just kids and that they'll learn someday. But I just straight up told her that her kids are entitled little brats and that she needs to teach them to be better people and to respect others. You know, the kind of stuff you would learn in preschool. She then told me that I was being a bratty little girl. But I said I'm an adult and I've been in this family much longer than she has, as she got married into the family last year. So she has no right to talk down to me like that. And after I said that, she left. Now, this is a question I can see coming up. Where were all the adults? Well, whenever the family gets together, the adults leave the kids either with me as I am the oldest or with my grandparents. But anyways, should I apologize to my aunt? Did I go too far? Am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, this might be a little rude, but I'm just gonna say it. You are definitely not the jerk. I can't stand when people don't take care of their kids and they don't correct them when they're doing awful behavior, because by doing nothing, you're giving this demon a license to basically do whatever he wants. Like, these 6-year-olds are running around saying, "I'm not gonna clean this up. You're ugly. You look dirty." Like, what are you doing? That is not okay. You can't talk to people like that. And this behavior very easily could be corrected. Like, the aunt in this situation is an adult. There's no excuse for allowing this kind of behavior. Like, this is so unacceptable, even for like family gatherings. Because sure, at like family reunions or stuff like that, it's totally fine to let your hair down and be more yourself. But if that means your kids are gonna be running around and breaking things and saying awful things to like everybody around them, then you need to step up and be like, wait, no, that's not gonna happen. And any other justification of, oh, they're still young, they're just kids. Like, sure, they're just kids, but guess what? They're your kids. And your kids are being very entitled and very annoying. And trust me, if you're not gonna correct them, someone else will, and that's not gonna be good, because clearly you're just super sensitive about it. So no, of course you're not the jerk. This needed to be said, because clearly your aunt is not a very good parent. Am I the jerk for leaving a family party early when my father's wife wouldn't leave me alone and kept trying to force some kind of relationship? Because after my father cheated and ruined my family, I decided I wanted nothing to do with him or his wife. And now my extended family is saying that I'm at fault for leaving early and for reacting poorly during a family event. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old male and I became estranged from my father 2 years ago after he was outed for having an affair. The woman in question is someone he had worked with, who knew he was married, who had met my mom and me, and it seemed a little off at the time. We now know it was because she liked my dad and wanted me to like her. I was disgusted with my dad. He tried denying it, then he tried to convince mom that it was a one-night stand and nothing more, and that he would forever regret it. But then he wanted her to stay with him and raise the baby he knocked the other woman up with, since they only had me at the time. Even when he moved in with the other woman, he kept trying to stop mom from going through with the divorce. He tried to get me to talk to mom on his behalf. He told me mom was the one breaking up our family and not him. Then when he gave up and accepted mom wouldn't take him back, which is when the other woman lost the baby, he tried to get me on board with things. But I ignored all calls and text messages from him. I couldn't block him while still a minor, but I didn't reply, and I didn't see my dad face to face during this. I knew that I wanted him out of my life for good. He tried to make me see him, but he failed. And once I turned 18, it was completely over for him. He ended up marrying the other woman, and now they're expecting a kid together. And I don't want anything to do with any of that, including the baby. And yes, even if I don't have to see them, I have zero interest in knowing that child or any future children. Now, I still see the extended family, which is why I was at a party they also attended, even though they weren't technically invited to it. During the party, Dad's wife approached me and told me that she wanted to talk, but I said no, and then I walked away. And when she came up again, I walked away again. But on the third time, when she spoke to me before I could move, she said she wants her baby to know their brother, and she wants me to be a part of their family. She wants to know me and have me for dinner, and maybe I could spend some time with them. She tried to say, oh, we're family now, which is honestly just such crap. So I ended up leaving early because I did not want to deal with it. So I thanked the hosts who were already annoyed that she and Dad were there. And for reference, a couple of Dad's siblings want him around still, while the others don't, but they still want to keep the peace and let them stay. The two siblings of Dad who think that we should all be easier on Dad and forgive him were so pissed at me for leaving early because then the rest of the family turned on Dad. They told me that I could have spoken to the woman and not taken it out on her, since apparently she didn't do anything to me. And they said that leaving was an over-the-top reaction, and it's not a mature one, which just caused family disharmony. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? First of all, I love how toxic these siblings are unintentionally being. They're completely showing their hand that they're not only tolerating this behavior, but that they're also upset that you're literally not taking it like they do. They're missing the fact that this woman is the reason his family fell apart. He cheated with her, and guess what? She was a willing participant. She knew there was a family behind this dad, but she went ahead with it anyways. So it's insane to assume that she did nothing to the original poster, because she, along with the dad, completely ruined the family. But also, more to the point, I don't think you're the jerk at all for leaving early and getting away from this lady. You literally want nothing to do with your dad or this lady that he married. They ruined your family, they tore apart everything, and you've made it very clear by ignoring all of his calls and text messages that you want nothing to do with your father. So in my opinion, anybody saying, oh wow, look at what you did, this is an overreaction, they can quite literally get lost because they have no say in this matter. Because these people in a lot of ways ruined your life. And if I was being confronted in the way that you were confronted, I absolutely would have done the exact same thing. I caught my girlfriend on a dating app after we agreed that we would be on a break. And now after confronting her about it, I feel like I'm completely lost and that our relationship is falling apart. Because right now, I really don't know what to do. I'm a 27-year-old male, and I've been with my partner Laura for about a year and a half. Laura is not her real name. We met on Bumble and have been living together for the past 6 months. A few months ago, I began having health problems, which did a number on my mental health. It took a toll on my relationship with Laura, who I think struggled to wrap her head around the mental health aspect. I began to feel like I could not open up to her about how much I was struggling and had to manage her happiness for the sake of the relationship. Eventually, things came to a head one day, and I admitted to her that I was having some very dangerous and dark thoughts, if you know what I mean, which greatly upset her. We agreed that it would be best if I left our shared apartment and went home to stay with my parents for a while to recuperate, focus on rehabilitation for my condition, and get myself feeling better again mentally. A few weeks after moving back home, I could sense that Laura was growing distant with me. She admitted that she was struggling with me opening up about my dark feelings. She then called me in tears one day to say that she wants a break. Now, I am shocked and hurt, but I agree to the break as long as we do not date or see other people, as I would prefer we separated full time if that were the case. And when I said this, she agreed to that. Well, one evening, she reveals that she is heading to a night out with a friend of hers, who I will call Mary for the sake of the story. I've had a bad feeling about Mary for some time for reasons I can't quite put my finger on, and I had a feeling deep in my gut that something wasn't right about that evening. I end up downloading Bumble and creating a fake profile. I set it to our city, and I spend a while that evening swiping through women's profiles. And eventually, my worst fears are confirmed. I encounter a profile made by Laura with very recent photos of her. I call Laura up immediately and I confront her. I'm distraught and I'm choking back tears, but she repeatedly denies having made the profile in earnest. She claims that Mary made the profile for her as a way of getting her out of the rut caused by our break. Eventually, I calm down after Laura reassures me that she would never do anything to hurt me. The following day, she asked me how I managed to find her on Bumble, and that's when I come clean and say that I had a bad feeling about the situation, and I decided to go with my gut. She then goes a bit quiet on me, and then insinuates that I'm creepy for stalking her, but I retort that at the end of the day, I found her on a dating app, and that she is not in a position to be taking the moral high ground. Well, she agrees, but not without a bit of silent protest. Fast forward a few months and I'm feeling better about life. I move back in with Laura and we try our best to pick up where we left off. I managed to forgive Laura, but I had a hard time looking past Mary's actions. Whenever Laura offered to meet up with Mary for drinks, I would decline and stay at home. Laura eventually confronts me on my refusal to hang out with Mary, and I come clean and I tell her I would rather not spend time around and pretend to play happy families with someone who meddled in my relationship and nearly caused my partner and I to separate. Well, Laura doesn't take well to this and spends the rest of the day in a bit of a huff with me. I am very perplexed by the situation. Laura seems to have a hard time understanding why I don't really like Mary or even want to hang out with her. It is making me wonder whether the story about Mary making the Bumble profile for her is true or not. One thing that also struck me about the Bumble profile is that it has a pretty striking similarity to the one Laura had when we first started dating. Very similar wording and personal information. At the end of the month, Laura is going away on a girls' trip with another one of their friends to another city for the weekend. And I don't want to tell Laura that she can't go, but I am not thrilled by the situation either. So at this point, I really could do with some input. Laura seems keen for me to play happy families with Mary, which I have absolutely no intention of doing. I also wonder if I was a bit too quick to forgive Laura and that there is perhaps more to the story than she is telling me. What should I do? Yeah, I would never bring back my girlfriend in a million years if I saw that she made a profile on Bumble. And that's regardless if a friend made that for her or not. Like, first of all, she has terrible friends, and the fact that she still wants to spend time with that friend shows me that she values that friendship more than our relationship. Like, why on earth would she want to be friends with someone who is blatantly trying to destroy her relationship? That literally makes no sense to me. Like, wouldn't you want to try and be around people who are going to be encouraging and they're going to be like, listen, you're on a break, but you can make this work? Because what Mary did, in my opinion, does not classify as a good friend. This is not someone who's going to like keep an eye out for you or help you in any kind of way. This is literally someone who's trying to take away from your relationship and basically try to drag the both of you down a really weird path. But honestly, that's only if Mary actually did make that profile. Because in my opinion, I think Laura's absolutely lying to you. I'm kind of convinced that she made that profile, but she got caught red-handed, which is why she went on the defensive. Like, she literally tried to turn this back on you and be like, wait a second, why are you stalking me? It's kind of weird that you're on Bumble. How did you find it, huh? When it's like, wait a second, you're the one with the profile, not me. I had to download the stupid application and make a fake profile just to see that you have an active profile. Like, seriously, let's not get this twisted around. So if I was in this situation, there is no way on earth I would ever let this go, because this, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. An entitled jerk ruins me and my friend's night by being very smug and obnoxious towards me and my friends. So we decided to get some petty revenge by getting this guy pulled over while he was driving home after we reported him for driving under the influence. Here's what happened. So this story takes place about 20 years ago. In the mid-2000s, my friends and I would frequent a small billiards place in a neighboring town where you could rent a table by the hour or play per game. We would play a few games, watch whatever sports were on TV, and have some casual conversations. There were no problems and no drama until about 3 months of us visiting this place. Some guy shows up and takes our spot at the billiards table, and this is no big deal. We were all chatting anyways. 20 minutes later, my friend lets him know we want to play the next game, and this jerk is super dismissive. Needless to say, we didn't get in during the next game, so I politely let him know that we wanted to play the next one, and another lady chimed in that she wanted the next game after us. Well, this entitled jerk just blatantly ignored me and the other woman. Some more time goes by, and this guy leaves the table, and that's when we see our chance to get in. We put the quarters in, and the balls are all dispensed. That is, except for the green number 6 ball. And that's when we realized that this guy took it with him to the bathroom. At this point, it was ridiculous, and we notified the manager. The manager noted that it was 12:30, and they were going to be calling last call and closing, so he didn't want to make a scene by kicking him out. So instead, he just gets us another ball so that we can play. This entitled jerk then comes out of the bathroom, and he knows that we realize exactly what he did. He smirks and proceeds to the patio to have a smoke, bringing along his beer and the green billiard ball. The guy then comes back in and tossed the ball as he was holding onto the table, hitting a few of the balls on the table and messing up our game. He then goes up to the bar just in time for last call. Well, one of the friends I was with suggested that we follow him home and each call the highway patrol to report a suspected drunk driver. And you know what? 3 out of the 4 of us agreed. So when he leaves, we used our phones to coordinate several calls to the police. We provided details like a license plate, the vehicle make and model, and the color, and we mentioned the car nearly hit another vehicle, was swerving between lanes and driving erratically. And this was all under a 15-minute plan too, by the way. We had no idea where the guy lived, but we suspected it was close, as he was visiting a neighborhood place, so our time was very limited. The one guy who didn't notify the police tailed this jerk and called us excited when a police officer pulled between him and the guy and turned in his lights to pull him over. The police blotter that week included an arrest of a guy who was pulled over after multiple calls of erratic driving. He wasn't arrested for DWI, but instead for driving on a suspended license. And honestly, with all things considered, we're glad we did this because this guy absolutely deserved it. Yeah, that guy was being a massive jerk. He took your spot at the billiards table literally for no reason, and then he takes the number 6 ball with him to the bathroom, so you guys can't have any kind of game of your own. Like, that's not only super toxic, but it's also obnoxious. And what's with the manager not kicking this guy out and making an example of him? It's pretty clear this guy was trying to cause problems, and the manager's like, oh, we're close to last call, I can't do that yet. Like, that manager was a coward, and he absolutely could have sorted this out. So yeah, good for these people for getting this guy in trouble, because while yes, he absolutely was a jerk at that bar, he was also definitely driving while having a few drinks. And that, in my opinion, is more than enough reason for this guy to find himself in some hot water. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled old jerk demands that we serve him a steak the exact way that he demands it and treats me and my staff like garbage, as he refuses to listen to anything I had to say. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, I'm a chef for a grocery store chain, which runs seasonal food events, hot bars, salad bars, and a bakery. And this is in a coastal town riddled with retirees and just straight up stereotypical old people with nothing to do. It's just a boring town with money. And though I'm from a much more diverse city with culture and background, I do fit in with my job and I'm well regarded by my peers. People know who I am. They like my food, and they generally show respect for the work that the boys and I do. However, some of these old entitled jerks simply can never be satisfied. Now, our flagship event is our prime rib dinner deal that costs $17.99, and it is an 8 to 10 ounce cut of meat. This is a medium rare steak that comes with sides. And you know what? As a chef, I think it's an absolute steal, especially with the work I do to get it to taste great and the manual labor from multiple people just to make it to the customer's plate. A lot of the old people around this area approach the station and just spew out that they want their steak rare. And this is really annoying for quite a few reasons. For starters, I work in retail, so we're looked down upon, so pleasantries such as, hey, may I please have a rare steak, just isn't something that these old entitled jerks think that they need to give to somebody in front of them. Secondly, we sell our roast beef medium rare, and we do that for taste and safety reasons. You'll also often see perfect steaks with a gray overlay due to the heat lamp, so we try to face them away or carve and serve for freshness. And sometimes we don't even have to do that. A lot of people don't know anything about food in general, so what they see is not what they think they will get, and a proper heat lamp can't cook a steak to a high temperature when the steak doesn't spend too much time under it. But if you cut into one of them, you will still see that it's pink more often than not. Now, there's 2 people at the carving station when it's really busy, but otherwise the other person is working in the back. So my partner was carving and I was making plates. And for reference, he often lets me deal with unruly jerks because I can be fake nice and tell him to go kick some rocks. But of course with nicer words and with a smile. I ask down the line and take a head count for orders just to make sure we have enough plates and clear the line quickly. That is until the entitled jerk of this story steps up. This guy looks at me and says,
I want the rarest one that you've got.
I look at him and I say, we'll do what we can, my friend. And then I continue to try and do my head count. This guy then jumps in again and says to me,
did you hear what I said, young man?
So I look at him and I say, you'll get what is in front of you or you can loop back around later. Plus, we just took out a fresh slab out of the hot box. He then says to me,
I'm paying for it, so I better get 'em.
But I look at him and I said, listen bro, you haven't paid for anything. And if you keep arguing with the chef, please feel free to leave my station. He then looks at me and says,
what did you say?
And he's obviously playing pretend to act like he can't hear, when even the people behind him absolutely heard me loud and clear. So I explained to him what was going on. I said to him, we sell medium rare steaks. In fact, I'm gonna make this clear for the kids in the back too. And that's when I shouted out so everybody could hear. I said, this is not a restaurant, so if you argue with the chefs, you get no beef. And I swear to God, a guy in the background says, heard, chef. This old entitled jerk walks towards the table and says to me,
I don't like you, man.
But my coworker says, but you love his meat, and I'm sure you'll come back for it. But I responded by saying, no need for that, chef, but thank you. Now give this man his rare steak. And this was all just too perfect. Now this was a week ago, and we do have an event in a few hours, so I really hope to see this entitled jerk try to pull this this once again. I spoke to the head chef, and she gave me the go-ahead to take absolutely no prisoners. Yeah, there is nothing worse than some entitled jerk trying to bark orders at you, and then acts all indignant and entitled when they don't get their way like right then and there. So good for you for standing up for yourself and not dealing with this guy's garbage, because his attitude was weird from the get-go, and if he was just a little bit more polite, I'm sure this could have been a normal interaction, instead of this entitled tantrum that this guy clearly exhibited. My parents have suddenly turned on my boyfriend and have collectively decided that they don't like him. And now, after encountering their awful attitude, as well as their terrible excuses as to why they don't like him, I'm now left wondering if I need to make some kind of boundaries between them and my personal life, because right now I'm so frustrated, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of backstory, my boyfriend and I have been together for 6 years. 4 of those years, we have lived together, gotten a dog, and had various other milestones in our lives. We have both been through a ton, seeing as though we are still in our 20s, and we've both been growing and changing. However, we've never wavered, and although we've had some tough conversations in the moment, we both know we want to be together indefinitely, and we see a future regardless of how wonky our timeline may be. Now, my boyfriend is extremely quiet and is socially awkward. He comes from a very tight-knit family. He's very kind and soft-spoken and very gentle. He doesn't say much, but when he does, it's some ridiculous joke, and he's always trying to make people laugh if he can. My parents have always liked him, or at least painted the picture that they did. My dad is very rigid, and both of them combined aren't easy to take in large quantities. They often have a lot to say about what other people are doing, but in turn don't take constructive criticism about themselves very well. Anyways, they've recently bought a vacation home and opened it up to myself and my siblings for a week. My sister and I brought our significant others, and the week went by pretty okay for the first few days. But then, halfway through the week, their demeanor towards my boyfriend changed. My dad got exceptionally snippy with him, and my mom would not acknowledge him unless absolutely necessary. As I was leaving, he went to get the car, and my mom high-fives me and says, "Oh, he's gone, you can stay," and I literally just wanted to run. I don't know why that statement bothered me so much, but it ripped me right to my core. I let it go for a while, but then by the time we left, I was pretty frustrated. Everything in my eyes had gone totally fine, and I couldn't understand what their issue was. Finally, when we got back, I let a few days pass, and over the phone, I brought it up to my mom. I said to her, "Do you guys still like my boyfriend?" She says to me, "Well, there are some things we are seeing that we absolutely do not like." Now, mind you, I'm 26 years old, and I've been living on my own since I was 21, so to be addressed that way was already a little rough. She then goes on to say, "We can discuss it in person the next time I see you." And I said to her, "No, we can discuss it soon. I'll FaceTime you on my lunch break and we can talk." Well, basically, she spent an hour telling me how she doesn't feel he wants to be a part of the family, all because of how quiet he is. Apparently, because my dad can't connect with him, he doesn't see him fit. They're also pissed off that we aren't married yet, which I can understand, but in my eyes, it's our choice and none of their business. We've both agreed that we just want to iron out the details before we put marriage on the table, but they feel like they're losing me and that I'm integrating myself into his family too much, which I also just cannot grasp. If my plan is to marry him, why wouldn't I want to do that? I love his family. They're honestly so peaceful and easy to be around, and I feel like they're jealous of that. She also spent another hour talking garbage about his family, and that was my least favorite part of the conversation. There was a lot of, "Are you happy? We just want you to be happy. Are you sure you're happy?" And you know what? I'm actually the happiest I've ever been, and I feel like they almost want me to say no. They then got my sister involved as well, and I guess they wanted her opinion on everything. Her boyfriend is super bubbly and outgoing and supposedly can do no wrong, and my parents absolutely love him. All in all, I have no clue how to proceed. I told her I was extremely happy in my relationship and that he and I are very pleased with our timeline, and we feel we are going at our own pace. Well, ever since that conversation, there's been no mention of my boyfriend. We talk daily on the phone, and not once has she asked about him or how he's doing. Now, he knows that something is up, but I don't think he knows the severity of it. He is such a good, sweet person, and it breaks my heart that they are now punishing him for no reason. This kid put so much thought into everything with my parents. He actually built my dad an axe throwing board for Christmas last year and spent like $500 total on supplies. He really does mean well, he's just a little bit awkward. I am now wanting to create boundaries with them and not allow them access to that part of my life because they have so much judgment to cast. Has anyone ever dealt with something like this before? Does it ever get better? My therapist said that I should tell them that how they behaved towards him on vacation was unacceptable, but I'm scared it will blow up and make the situation worse. What should I do? I think first of all, you need to understand that your parents do not dictate your relationship in the slightest. slightest. You know exactly what you have with your boyfriend, and your parents have no say in who you can and cannot spend time with. But also, on that note, I think your therapist might be onto something. If I was in your shoes, I would be telling my parents right away that the way they treated him was inappropriate and that will not happen again. It also doesn't really seem like you defended your boyfriend in the slightest when your mom was dragging him and his family through the dirt. Like, they don't have a legitimate reason not to like him. It only seems like they don't like him all because your boyfriend is like kind of shy and introverted. But if that's literally the only basis they're going off of, then they're the ones with the problem and not you. So truly, in my opinion, I think it's time to set some boundaries and say that enough is enough, because the way they're treating your boyfriend is super inappropriate, and he does not deserve this kind of treatment in the slightest. I found out that my husband has been lying to his coworkers by telling them that I'm his sister and not his wife, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my husband, we'll call him Josh for the sake of the story, has been with me for 6 years, and we've been married for 4, and we don't have any kids. We have a healthy relationship, and we communicate a lot. We're also both pretty easygoing, and I really love him a lot. He started working at a large accounting firm about 3 years ago, and from what he tells me, he loves it there. He's made a lot of friends through his job, and he goes out with them for drinks and social events quite often, and I've been totally okay with that. I am quite introverted, so I've never been interested in meeting his colleagues or his work friends. And you know what? I haven't asked to either. I've got my own circle of friends, and I'm fine with us having separate friend groups. After what happened yesterday, it's only just occurred to me that he has never actually asked me if I'd like to meet any of them or go to one of his work events. So I guess that will be important for context later on. Anyways, I'll start with what happened a few months ago that I had brushed off until now. I was at a bar with some friends for a couple of Friday after work drinks, and a guy approached me who was there with some friends. He looked slightly familiar, but I hadn't met him before. He seemed friendly enough, and then he said my name and asked me if that was right. Now, I think I must have given him some kind of confused look, because he followed up by saying, "Oh, I'm Jake, and I work with Josh." And it's right then that I realized I recognized him from some photos on my husband's phone. And honestly, this is where things get a bit embarrassing. I'm a bit socially awkward, and so I struggled to end the conversation, but he just kept talking at me. And I guess he was already a couple beers deep, but while he was talking, he said something like, "It's great that you guys are still so close. I haven't talked to my brother in ages." And at the time, I was thinking to myself, what are you talking about? But I just assumed that he was drunk and not making any sense, so I ignored it. He started to get a little flirty, so I turned to my friends and we left shortly after that. I didn't say anything to them about it, and it didn't seem like a big deal to me. I also decided not to tell my husband that I had met his coworker Jake, not to hide it, but because I figured the guy wouldn't even remember talking to me, and I didn't want to make it awkward for Josh at work by telling him his colleague tried to hit on me. So I just thought, no harm, no foul. But yesterday morning, I was out walking our dog Monty, and I was on my way to my regular cafe, which is in town. I was waiting in line to order, and the guy in front was an older man. He got his coffee and turned around, but stopped and looked at my dog and says, "Oh, hello, Monty." And Monty was super excited to see him apparently. And so I guessed that the guy was another colleague of Josh's, because Josh does bring the dog to work a couple of times a week. And to be honest, I thought it was sweet. So I smiled at him and I said hi. He introduced himself, and yes, I did guess correctly that he was a colleague, but then he said something like, "Aren't you a good sister walking his dog for him?" And I was so confused that I didn't even know how to react at first. So I stumbled on my words and I just said, "Oh, it's my dog." I do regret it, but I genuinely couldn't bring myself to correct him and say that I'm Josh's wife and not his sister. It was just too awkward, and I just wanted to leave because I think it was suddenly dawning on me what might have been going on. He asked me something about sharing a dog, but I was able to escape the conversation by being next in line to order my coffee, and he ended up leaving. So right now, I seriously don't know what to do, because seriously, what's happening? Do I even ask my husband about this? Part of me is just assuming or hoping that it's some kind of mistake, that he doesn't talk about me much at work, and they assume that we're related because we both have brown hair or something like that. But the thought that he has been telling his coworkers that I'm his sister makes my stomach churn. I don't even know how to broach the subject with him. So I really need some help. What would you guys do in this kind of situation? I've only told one friend what happened because it's so weird and embarrassing, and she has gone straight to thinking about how to plot his downfall. But I don't want to immediately assume the worst or ruin my marriage over something that could be nothing. What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update to this story. Here's what they had to say. Okay, for starters, I want to say thank you to everybody who commented and gave me some advice. I haven't read all of them, but I really appreciate the suggestions from everybody. In terms of a small update, Josh came home at about 2:30 last night, but he was drunk, so he just went straight to sleep, which is fine by me because because having this conversation in that state just isn't going to happen. And at this point, I've just woken up, but he's still asleep. Now, the first thing I just want to clear up is that I've seen a lot of people suggesting that I have crippling social anxiety or I am severely introverted, which I suppose you could glean from the way I explain what happened, but I promise I'm not. I mean that I'm slightly introverted in that I'm not the most eager to meet lots of new people at once, especially a bunch of finance bros whose weekends consist of unending sports bar and plenty of beers, where I assume I would be mansplained about everything until my ears bleed. I suppose you could say that I'm confrontation adverse in that I'm quite laid back and prefer to keep a conversation easy and positive. I don't like it when things are awkward and correcting when people misrecognize me, so I guess it's one of those things, but I'm honestly not terrified of confrontation. Also, my husband and I do share some mutual friends. I didn't explain that well, but our lives are not entirely separate. The way he acts towards me around our mutual friends is extremely affectionate and normal, but it's only his work friends that I have never interacted with. I've also seen some people suggesting that what's going on is the equivalent to my husband being physically aggressive with me and me hopelessly wondering whether I should break up with him, or that I'm stupid for thinking my relationship was healthy when it clearly isn't. But seriously, I need people to cut me some slack. I'm a real person and this is an entirely alien and bizarre situation for me. My first reaction wasn't to assume the worst, but I do appreciate that all of you have made certain that this is a big deal. I guess I needed confirmation that the things that happened are enough proof that Josh has been purposefully lying and they weren't just mix-ups. I'm going to talk to him today and I'm going to ask him directly why he's telling his coworkers that I'm his sister. I follow the advice of writing my points down so that they don't get lost if I get emotional, and I will do my best to not let him slither out of it either, because I really hope he has some proof that his colleagues know that I'm his wife, because this scenario has seriously been stressing me out and I really just want to have it all completely resolved. Wow, that is a really bad situation to be stuck in, because what your husband is doing to you is completely intentional. Like, it doesn't take much for him to be like, oh yeah, this is my wife, this is someone I'm married to, and this is someone I care about. But instead, he's sitting there saying, oh yeah, this is my sister, and he's just lying to his coworkers for no real reason. And it really makes me question, like, why would he be acting this way? Is he like embarrassed about you or like in some way hiding you for some kind of reason? It honestly doesn't make any sense and there's just no good excuse. So hopefully this can all get worked out and you guys can figure out what's going on, because just like other people have been saying in your post, this really is a big deal and it needs to be figured out much sooner than later. My toxic entitled boss tries to get me fired by trying to blame me for things that she should have done. But instead of taking this sitting down, I decided to get some revenge by submitting all the receipts I could possibly find that blatantly proved how incompetent my boss was. And as a result, she ended up getting fired. Here's what happened. So I'm a 30-year-old female and I've been a people pleaser to a fault my entire life. I've been working in marketing for 10 plus years, and over the years, I've had my fair share of bosses who were either good, average, or just straight up sucked. But there is one in particular that stood out as completely awful. For the sake of the story, we'll call her Pamela, and she's in her 40s and was the vice president of marketing and sales for a mid-sized retailer. She started at the company a few years after I did, and if rumors were true, she was the fourth pick for the position and was simply hired so the company could appease the shareholders. I was a manager under her, and my job was to make sure the website and stores had their products merchandised properly, as well as received all their monthly sales materials, managed the advertising, and many other responsibilities. And basically, in short, I did her work and all the administrative grunt work to literally keep the department afloat. I managed all this because I had access to her email and many times sent emails on her behalf just to keep the department functioning. Pamela spent most of her time showing up at about 10 o'clock in the morning, taking business lunches, and planning company parties. I consistently questioned why she spent so much of our budget on these events when we didn't have the budget resources for any of it. So Pamela told me to take from future months' budgets to pay for the current month's overspending, meaning that at the start of every month, I had an original budget, and by the end of the month, I had to turn in an edited budget per Pamela's direction. And we did it like this to make it look as if Pamela's spending was under control. And trust me when I say this detail will be important later on, because all of this blows up in her face in a spectacular fashion. Now, I definitely made mistakes here and there being in charge of so many things, and I constantly found myself working 12-hour days, split between being in the office and working after my kid went to bed. Weekend work was also done before my family woke up and right after they went to bed. During Pamela's first major holiday season, all of our sales were awful. Pamela kept changing her mind on the visuals for the stores, kept bringing on new advertising and PR agencies to bring in sales, even though all these agencies consisted of her personal friends and completely ignored our buying and merchandise team's planned promotions so that she could push for her own better ones. At this point, I had been dealing with an ongoing infection that turned into sepsis, and I was eventually hospitalized. The doctors and my husband said it was due to the stress of work and that I needed to take a break. As I recovered, I realized how much I was hurting myself, my family, and even the company that I work for. Eventually, my old habits got to me, and I got on my phone and I checked mine and my boss's emails, and what I found made my blood boil. First, I got a lovely bouquet of flowers from upper management wishing me well, and I knew that Pamela organized the delivery because she sent me her favorite flowers. I went to her inbox to put the receipt in the correct folder to send to accounting when I got back, and at the top of her inbox from the past 3 days were emails clearly not related to business, and what I found in her emails was Pamela emailing her personal friends, griping how I just can't shake off this illness and get back to work. She also complained that she couldn't find any of my notes, spreadsheets, or documents for any of the work that she was technically in charge of, despite the fact that they are on a shared drive that is very clearly labeled. Finally, I found an email where she sent a friend from a previous company asking for advice on how to bring in sales and save her job. In this long thread, this old colleague asked if there was anyone managing most of the work, and of course, Pamela said I was. This colleague explained that clearly it was my mismanagement that was causing issues, and that I could be blamed if sales didn't pull through by the end of the season. Pamela then mentioned that I was in the hospital and repeated comments from her other email thread. This person said that she couldn't outright fire me because it could seem like retaliation, all because I needed to take an emergency medical leave. But if Pamela could prove I was stealing from the company or misusing company resources, then she would have grounds to have me fired and to use me as a scapegoat. Upon my return, Pamela called me into her office and said she was worried I was taking on too much and wanted to take some work off my plate. So she announced that she was taking managing the department budget off of my plate, and she asked me to only drop off a small stack of invoices to accounting. Additionally, Pamela told me under no circumstances was I allowed to talk to accounting about anything regarding budgets. Also, if I had any concerns about the department or the workload, I wasn't allowed to go to HR, and I had to discuss it directly with Pamela. And it was right then and there that I thought to myself, oh yeah, I can see exactly where this is going. Well, unfortunately for Pamela, I had built a rapport with someone who we will call Laura, who was our main accountant in the office, and Laura always said that she would do everything in her power to help me should I ask. So, knowing this, I grabbed the stack of invoices off of Pamela's desk to give it to accounting. I also added the email threads I read while I was in the hospital and the current unedited budget that Pamela hadn't touched yet for the month. I also found in my filing cabinet the hard copies of old budgets with Pamela's handwriting on what numbers to change to balance our budget. And finally, I added an email from our first round of budget adjustments where Pamela basically said she was going to put someone else in my job if I wouldn't do what she wanted me to do. So I walked and dropped off the invoices to accounting when I bumped into Laura. She brought up invoices and I sternly looked at her and I said Pamela is the only one in our department that Laura is allowed to talk to about our budget and invoices. Laura saw the suspiciously thick folder on her desk, gave me a firm nod, and lovingly kicked me out of her office. Well, within the week, Pamela was fired. From what I understand, she has been continually job hopping for the past few years. The CEO and HR brought me in to personally apologize for everything I went through and gave me a paid 1-week vacation to take at my discretion. But given other issues with this business, I ended up leaving after another year, which then brings me to today. I am once again a manager for sales and marketing. I have a wonderful boss who trusts my business decisions and backs me up on practically everything, and we are hiring my team for me to solely manage and direct. Well, today, I looked through the applicants and I found Pamela's resume sitting amongst dozens of others. I stared at her name, wondering how many other people share her name, but upon review, I realized that it's her. She definitely fell down the corporate ladder, with the vice president of our old company being the highest title she ever earned. And to no surprise, she embellished her achievements, claiming the work I managed as her own, and claimed that she generated an 87% sales growth during the holiday season at our previous company. Well, as a people pleaser who firmly believes in giving everyone a chance, it has never been so satisfying to disqualify someone from being hired in my life. Okay, Pamela seriously was a bad boss, and she was absolutely going to throw you right under the bus at the earliest convenience. Like, that is so toxic, especially considering she's the one that caused all these problems. She not only had you changing the numbers to fit her own personal narrative, but she also basically demanded it and said, oh, you're gonna get fired if you can't do this. So I just love the fact that you fought back and and worked behind her back to make sure that she couldn't try that with you. Because people like this absolutely deserve to be put in their place. And thankfully, your former job was able to do that to Pamela. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for sending our wedding band home mid-party after I found out that my ex is one of the members? Because right now my wife is incredibly angry with me, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So we got married yesterday, and when we arrived at the reception venue, everything was already in place. But it was not until we were called upon for our first dance that I recognized the singer from the band to be my ex-girlfriend from high school. We haven't talked for over 15 years, and my wife doesn't know much about my exes. We just never talked about past relationships other than saying that I've had maybe 3 exes in total. During the dance, I couldn't help but focus on the fact that she is up there on the stage. I know my wife was the one in charge for the music for the day, but she never told me what she booked, nor did I ever ask about what it is. I asked her what made her choose that band, and she said she went through an entertainment agency and saw the ex's portfolio, which was good, and it was within our budget, so she just went ahead and booked them. Well, I told her the singer was my ex from high school, and that I'm not comfortable with her performing. She said that's an odd coincidence, and told me, well, why is this an issue? It happened so long ago. I told her yes, but I'm still weirded out by it. My wife then said that it's just music, and not to make such a big deal out of this since the band is doing a good job, but I told her that I want to talk with the band. Well, my ex recognized me, and she was being very professional about it. She said she didn't know it was going to be my wedding, and only knew when she got to the venue for prep and saw some of our other mutual friends. Well, I told her to finish up in the next 30 minutes and then to leave. And at this point, she looks shocked, and so does her band members. I then reassured them that it's not because of the performance. One of the band members then said that even though they were being asked to leave early, since they already rocked up and this is a change of mind on the day, there will be no refunds. But I told them I won't be pursuing a refund. Well, I then told my wife that the band was leaving, and she was absolutely livid. She kept asking me why it is such a big deal because of an ex, and asked me if I still had feelings for her. I said no, that's absurd, but I felt uncomfortable that I was reminded of my past relationship at literally the worst time possible. She told me I am wasting her money, but I told her we could get another DJ that we could get on the spot with the help of the venue in which we fully paid for. She then told me that's just another waste of money because my feelings apparently are too fragile and that I can't see the bigger picture. After the band left, I went straight to the venue manager to try and sort things out, and long story short, it all got sorted out. The DJ did a good job, the guests seemed to have a good time and didn't even notice, but my wife was not enjoying it at all. And after everything was over, she went straight to bed at the hotel. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Yes, you are absolutely the jerk. You literally lit your wedding on fire, all because of an ex from high school. We're talking somebody from 15 years ago, my man. Like, why would you blow up your wedding all because of an ex that you don't even talk to? Like, what is your problem? Why would you do that? Your wife is right 100% because you not only wasted her money, but you also wasted everybody's time. Like, I can only imagine how fragile your weird ego is to try and pull something like this on your wedding day. Like, if anything's absurd about this situation, it's the way that you reacted. You very easily could have been like, okay, that's my ex from 15 years ago, whatever, and just enjoyed your wedding with your wife. But here you are being like, no, my ex from 15 years ago can't be here. My only choice is to kick the band out of the venue and find someone else, I don't know, right then and there. That is literally crazy to me. And your wife is 100% right. This literally doesn't take the big picture into account at all. So yes, you are absolutely the jerk, and there was no reason to ruin your wedding in the way that you did, because what you did is unacceptable, and your wife is completely justified for being upset. Am I the jerk for refusing to do Thanksgiving this year after literally doing it for the past decade for my entire family? Because right now, I am feeling very burnt out, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, all names in this story are fake. So I'm a 40-year-old female, and I have 6 sisters, 2 older sisters and 4 younger ones, and their ages range from 47 all the way down to 32. We've always been a close-knit family, and for the past decade, I've taken on the responsibility of hosting Thanksgiving at my house. I enjoy having everybody over, but it's a lot of work, especially since we all have at least 2 kids each, and all of them within the age group of 5 to 15. It is absolute chaos, but joyous chaos. My husband helps out, but the majority of the planning, cooking, and organizing falls on me. me? Well, this year I decided that I needed a break. Life has been hectic and I'm feeling burnt out. Between work, taking care of my kids, and other responsibilities, I'm just not up for the task of hosting a big family gathering. So I suggested that one of my sisters take over hosting Thanksgiving this year. I brought this up in our family group chat, thinking that it would be a reasonable request, while also giving them plenty of time to plan. However, my two older sisters, by the names of Sarah and Emily, were not happy with the idea. Sarah has a busy job and a smaller house, so she feels she can't accommodate everyone comfortably. Emily argued that she's been dealing with a lot of stress lately and doesn't have the energy to host. They both suggested that since I've been doing it for so long, I should just keep the tradition going, especially since my house is the most spacious one and I'm the one who knows how to do it right. Now, my younger sisters were more understanding, but they also hesitated to take on the responsibility. My younger sister Jessica said that she would be willing to help out more with the preparations if I hosted, but she wasn't confident about hosting the entire event herself. The other younger sister offered similar compromises, but no one was willing to take on the full load. After some back and forth, I stood firm and I said that I really need someone else to host this year. I suggested that we could even make it a potluck to ease the burden, but Sarah and Emily were still upset. They accused me of being selfish and abandoning a family tradition that I've upheld for years. They argued that I'm the one with the most experience and that Thanksgiving just wouldn't be the same if I didn't host it. And now there's tension in the family, with my older sisters feeling like I'm letting them down. I feel like I've done my fair share over the years, and it's not unreasonable to ask for a break. But at the same time, I understand that my older sisters are also under a lot of pressure, and that hosting Thanksgiving is a big deal for our family. So am I the jerk for refusing to host Thanksgiving this year after literally doing it for the past decade? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think anybody who's upset about this is just lazy and incredibly entitled. I mean, it is so convenient the way they're talking about this. They're calling you selfish because you're not hosting something that they don't want to do. They're too lazy to do it themselves, so they would rather you be stuck with all this hard work so that they can reap the benefits of not doing anything to help out. Like, that's all this says to me personally, and that is honestly how I feel about that. So no, you're not the jerk for turning them down and saying, look, I don't have time for this. Because from the sounds of it, it really seems like this has been a one-man show for over a decade. And in my opinion, that is completely unfair. My entitled mother-in-law thinks the family vacation is only for her, as she has literally taken over all of our plans and throws a hissy fit anytime we try to do anything else. Here's what happened. Okay, to give some information, my husband, my mother-in-law, and myself traveled to a southwest state to visit my brother-in-law. We're staying at his small apartment to save some money, and my mother-in-law, from the planning stages of this trip, has been trying to dictate everything. When we get up, when we eat, and what we're gonna do. Where we are going is a very food-popular place, and going out to eat is considered one of the highlights of traveling here. But she wanted to eat at home 2 out of the possible 3 meals per day. But when we arrived, she made it clear she only wanted to go out to eat once during the trip. And it's not even an expensive place, but a place where one full meal is like $14. So she wants to go grocery shopping at a place like Walmart or even Costco. And this is all for a 4-day family trip. Well, we finally convinced her to go to Walmart, and as we get there, she starts loading up the cart with food items that she wants. And they're all the organic, high-priced, healthy food items. She even demands that we have eggs in the morning and salads during the evening. Now, is she gonna foot this bill? No, of course not. She wanted to split the bill with us. Quite literally, none of the food in the cart was for the rest of us, but she wanted us to split the bill with her. Every time we made a plan to do something, she would interject and say, oh, but I want to do this first. Now, let me just tell you that after hearing a full-grown adult say I wanna in a whiny voice, you just about want to pull your hair out. The second day, she wanted to work out with a son she was visiting, but he didn't want to because he wanted to work out alone. So she decided she was going to take a 3-hour walk in the 105-degree weather with only 20 ounces of water and no sunscreen. So after 1 hour, we had to go on a search and rescue for her because she was most definitely going to suffer from a bad sunburn or being dehydrated. Now, not only did she literally walk off to throw a hissy fit, but she delayed the actual plans my brother-in-law made for the day. Now, our third day hasn't happened yet, but my brother-in-law wanted to make me feel included, and asked what I would like to do since the day was wide open. I suggested a fun tourist attraction, and both him and my husband were eager to do it. But before we started to figure out the timing of it, my mother-in-law spoke up and said that she wanted to go take photos first. She wanted to work out, cook, and go swimming and get some coffee. But once she finished off her list of demands, she said, but you know, whatever you guys want to do. But no ma'am, apparently it's not whatever we want to do, because you get pissy when things aren't going your way. I will never travel with her again, nor will I ever spend more than 3 hours with her. Visiting my brother-in-law was supposed to be fun and relaxing, but she is treating this vacation like a to-do list and making sure all her boxes are ticked off first before anyone else. And at this point, I seriously just want to go home. Wow, that sounds incredibly obnoxious, and I don't blame you for being upset. She literally has ruined the vacation. She took this trip and she said, oh yeah, we're gonna do it my way. Like if I was on vacation and someone was like, oh yeah, we're gonna eat food from Walmart every single day. Like I would be so pissed off it's not even funny. This is one of the few times where you get to go out and just like spend some money and buy some food that's unique to the area. This is not the time to like save money, especially if you plan for this trip. So truly, I hope you make it through the rest of this vacation, and at least now you know that you will never travel with your mother-in-law ever again, because the way she's acting is incredibly immature, and I would not want to deal with that if I was in your shoes. Am I the jerk for asking a woman at my gym to tone it down, all because I was distracted by her during my workout? Here's what happened. I'm a 32-year-old male, and I'm a software engineer who moved to the United States from India 6 years ago. I've been going to the same gym for a year, and I typically like to keep to myself, focus on my workout, and then leave. But recently, my gym experience has become more complicated. There are two Polish twins who, for the sake of the story, we will call Carly and Lena. They're 29 years old, and they also go to the gym. They're both software engineers too, so we've had some good conversations between sets. They're really smart, and over time, we started spotting each other and occasionally working out together. It's been nice having people to chat with and help out, and I genuinely enjoy their company. Well, this is when another woman comes in who we will call Renee, who is someone that could easily be a fitness model. She's got a body that turns heads, and she absolutely knows it. Renee wears tiny shorts and sports bras that leave little to the imagination, especially with her very prominent features, if you know what I mean. Now, I'm not here to shame anyone for what they wear, but Renee's workout routine seems designed to show off her body. She's doing deep squats, leg lifts, all right in front of where I'm lifting. It is incredibly distracting, and I found myself losing focus, missing some reps, and generally just feeling uncomfortable. After a particularly bad workout where I literally couldn't concentrate at all, I decided to say something. I approached Renee and, as politely as I could, asked if she could tone it down a bit because it was hard for me to focus. Well, Renee looked at me like I was crazy and basically told me that if I couldn't handle it, that was my problem and not hers. I felt awkward, so I just apologized and then I walked away. The next time I saw Carly and Lena, they were acting different, less chatty and kind of distant. I didn't think much of it at first, but it continued on for several days. Eventually, Lena pulled me aside and asked why I said something to Renee. Apparently, Renee told them about our conversation and implied that I was frustrated and projecting it onto her. Lena didn't say it outright, but it was clear that she thought I was out of line. She mentioned that as a woman, they are used to men staring and making them uncomfortable in the gym, and my comment might have added to Renee's discomfort. I felt like the bad guy for just trying to get my workout in peace. Now I'm in a weird place. Carly and Lena, who I genuinely respect, seem to think I'm some kind of creep, and Renee has only become more present in my line of sight during workouts. I've thought about switching gyms, but that feels like I'm running away from the problem. But at the same time, I can't shake the feeling that I crossed a line. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, what is going on right now? This might be the most out of touch story I've ever read in my life. Like, this goes off the charts on the delusional scale because the original poster is 100% the jerk. Here's a fun fact that I think everybody can agree with. Women are allowed to work out in gyms. They're allowed to do squats and lunges and anything else that anybody else would be doing. They have every right to be there in their workout clothes and get a workout done just like the original poster. So it is genuinely crazy to me that the original poster would be like, wow, Renee, you're showing off just a little bit too much. You're making it distracting for me. I can't focus because of your body. Like, seriously, dude, you are the problem in this situation. You are 100% in the wrong, and the fact that you went up to Renee and said, can you tone it down a little bit? Like, that is so out of line, it's not even funny. Because seriously, you are being so gross and demeaning towards this woman. You're being blatantly misogynistic, and I think you really need to like self-reflect on this situation. So seriously, if you are so attracted to this woman that you just can't get any work done, then you are the problem, not her. She hasn't done anything anything to you other than exist in the same space as you. And if you really can't control your feelings and get your workout done, then you should be the one to figure your crap out instead of going to Renee and be like, wow, this is your fault. Look at what you're doing to me. Because if you can't have even like the slightest amount of self-control, then in my opinion, you definitely should not even be in this gym in the first place. My friend lied to me about having cancer, all in some weird attempt to try and see if I even care about him in the first place. But now our friendship is practically ruined, as I am now highly considering blocking him and never talking to him ever again. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories, and don't forget to subscribe to Am I the Jerk. Okay, just for a bit of context, I'm a 17-year-old male, and my friend, who we will call Jack, is 16 years old. For a while, I've had braces because of my underbite, and when Jax called me, my dad was driving me home from my dentist appointment, which Jack absolutely knew I had at the time, and he's almost perfect every time at guessing when I'm done with them. On the way home, he FaceTimed me while I was laying in bed. He was groaning, and he actually looked really sick, and when I asked him what was wrong, he told me straight up, "I have cancer." I sat there for a second thinking about what he just said. He wasn't on speakerphone, but since I was sitting next to my dad in front of him, my dad asked me if anything was wrong, and I just said no and went back to Jack. I then asked him, "Are you serious?" Which he responded by saying yes. I then asked him if he was in the hospital, and he said no again, to which I responded by saying, "Okay, well, why not? Does nobody know what's going on?" He then told me,
Oh, after they gave me this thing that is attached to my arm, they let me go home.
After he said that, I knew that something was off. So I asked him, "Okay, could you show me the thing on your arm?" To which he said,
I don't feel comfortable doing that.
So at this point, I thought he must be going through it right now, so I just didn't want to push it. So I told him that I had to go and that I would call him back later on and to please get better soon. After I hung up, I told my dad that my friend just called me and said that he had cancer. My dad then asked me if I was sure, and I said yes. Well, 1 week later, I get a call from my other friend, who we will call Aaron, and Aaron is in the friend group with me, him, and Jack. And apparently, Jack had called him and said that he had COVID, but I cut him off and said, yes, I know he has cancer. To which Aaron responded by saying, okay, but I thought he had COVID. Well, once I heard that, I knew that Jack had been lying to me. So I told Aaron that Jack was definitely lying. And he said that he already knew that because he had just been in his house yesterday, and there were no signs of anything that would prove that he was even sick. So me and Aaron came up with a plan to get him to confess. But the day that we were going to go through with our plan, I get a notification from Jack. Aaron was with me in the house, so I brought my phone to him, and we read it all together. The text was from Jack, and he was confessing that he lied and he was sorry. Now, I was happy he confessed, but then what he did actually sank in, and I was absolutely pissed. The main reason I was mad was that, for starters, my uncle died to cancer when I was very young. Secondly, his excuse for it was to say, I just wanted to see if you cared about me. So after this, me and Aaron stopped talking to him. Aaron blocked him, but I didn't, because I feel like I was too harsh, and every now and then, I text him something, still trying to figure out why he did it, because I don't believe he only did it because he thought I didn't care about him. So am I the jerk here? What should I do? Okay, I'm gonna say it straight up. Your friend Jack is a massive piece of crap. First of all, anyone who's like, oh yeah, I have cancer, and then turns around and says, oh yeah, I was lying to see if you actually care about me. Like, that is such a horrible thing to do. It legitimately has no good excuse. I don't even care that this guy's a teenager. That is not something you joke about or even like lie about in any capacity. And I honestly think that anyone who would lie about having cancer is a massive piece of garbage. And that's my honest opinion, because just like the original poster, I've also had family members who've been affected by cancer, and that is just downright offensive to lie about. So for him to do this is really just so disrespectful, and if that was me, I would lose trust in him completely after that. Like, what else is he lying about just to gain attention? Because legitimately, that's all this was. He was just doing some weird attention-seeking behavior in probably one of the worst ways possible. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for pulling away from him, and I think your friend Aaron is really smart in this scenario for straight up blocking him, because I really believe that this is not someone you want to call your friend, and I think you can absolutely do better than somebody who lies about having cancer. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my daughter try and pursue swimming as a professional career by telling her that it's too late to even get started? Because right now, my husband is very upset with me, and at this point, I seriously do not know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 45-year-old female, and I have 2 kids. I have a 16-year-old female that we will call Laura, and a 14-year-old male that we will call Kyle. Both of my kids take competitive competitive swimming as a hobby. However, Laura is more athletically inclined than Kyle is, and takes swimming more seriously than he does. She has been to regional and state championships a few times since elementary school, and has even gotten close to qualifying for nationals a year ago. Recently, Laura came up to me and told me that she really looks up to athletes like Michael Phelps and other great swimming legends in Australia and across the globe. She is a huge Olympics fanatic like our family, so I wasn't surprised at first. However, she then told me that she wanted to pursue swimming professionally because, in her words, she's made a lot of progress and thinks it's possible for her to get to the Olympics if she just keeps training harder. She also told me she really wants to represent Australia at the Olympics in the future and that she cannot live without swimming. However, I shut her down really quickly after she said that. I told her that there's athletes younger than her already swimming at the Olympics in the preliminary stages and even at the finals. I reminded her that Michael Phelps was only 15 years old at his first Olympics, and she didn't even qualify for nationals. And then I finally said that it was a bit late for her to try and pursue swimming professionally. I then reminded her how rigorous and strict the training was, both physically and mentally, how it was much more different than her swimming lessons. I also told her that she could put aside swimming until university, and that education was much more effective than athleticism. Well, after I said that, my daughter looked sad and nodded before heading to her dad's room, and I heard crying in his room. After half an hour had passed, my husband came downstairs and confronted me by saying that what I told my daughter was extremely cruel and it put down her self-esteem significantly. I retaliated back, saying that I was only expressing concern for Laura and that my concerns were realistic. After I told my husband my thoughts, we got into a bit of a dispute because, in my husband's words, my daughter's dreams were very realistic and that I shouldn't police my daughter's career autonomy. So I really need to know, am I the jerk for what I said to my daughter? What should I do? Okay, I'm gonna take a pretty firm stance here and say that yes, you are absolutely the jerk. Your daughter is 16 years old. She has her entire life ahead of her when it comes to figuring out a career. So for you to shoot down her dreams like that all at the drop of a hat and then have the audacity to compare her to Michael Phelps and be like, well, he made it to the Olympics at 15 and you didn't even qualify for nationals. That really sucks, and I really cannot believe you would do that to your own kid. This would be different if they were 26 and they said, oh, I want to be a competitive swimmer. At that point, I would agree if you said, okay, it's way too late to do this. You need to figure your life out, and this is not the time to pursue something new like this. But that's not what your daughter's doing. You don't know what kind of future she could have in swimming. She very easily could excel and be a really good swimmer on an international stage. And by the way, if you're really from Australia, the fact that she's coming close to getting into nationals, in my opinion, is a huge deal. Australia has some of the best swimmers on the planet. Who's to say she wouldn't break through in her senior year of high school, make it into the national competition, and then excel from there? You definitely don't know that. And who's to say that she wouldn't use her swimming to go to college? The way you handle this was completely inappropriate and very cruel. Your husband is 100% right. So yes, I think you're the jerk, and I think you really should apologize to your daughter, because she is still young and she has every right to dream just as much as anybody. Am I the jerk for telling my father that he's no longer allowed to cook for my kids after he tried to cook us meat that expired over 3 years ago? Because right now, my dad is very offended, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 30-year-old female, and my father shops like a doomsday prepper. Whenever he gets groceries, he buys enough to feed a family of 5. He's also the type to buy food that he doesn't plan on eating anytime soon, and he has it just in case he might crave it. And trust me, this has always been a problem. When I was younger, my sister and I spent more time at our mom's place, and we weren't there often enough to eat much. Nowadays, he lives alone, so even less of what he buys is even eaten. The result has always been the same. A lot of the food that he buys ends up either spoiled or sitting in a freezer until the end of time. We've never eaten anything that's rotten or moldy, but my dad has always refused to listen when I tell him this is bad for his health. My family went to his place for dinner about a week ago, and I arrived to help my father out as he planned on making burgers, and my husband would come later with our kids. I had offered to buy some burgers when we decided on them, but my father said that he had some at his place. I didn't think anything about what that could mean until I saw him pull out a box of burgers and some cheese from the very bottom of the freezer. Now, as both had clearly been there for a while, I checked the expiration dates. The cheese expired in February, and the burgers expired in March of 2021. I asked my father if he actually planned on cooking that food, and he said yes, as both were frozen and still fine to eat according to him. I told him I didn't care how edible he thought the food was. The meat was older than my daughter. We could think about something else to make, or I could have my husband pick up some burgers on his way to my dad's place, but I am not having my kids eat that. Well, when I said that, my father got offended. He started going on about about how the food was safe and how a dozen nutritionists had said so. But these are literally some guys his girlfriend found on TikTok. He said he couldn't believe I didn't trust him. He continued talking about how dramatic I was being for a while, but I was very upset at the way he responded. Finally, I said to him, "My kids aren't eating that, and I don't want you cooking for them again. Either my husband buys the burgers or we are not staying for dinner." Well, eventually, my husband ended up buying the burgers, and we ate them peacefully, and no one fought in front of the kids. The next day, my father told me he was upset by what I said. He said he felt offended that I'd accused him of putting his grandchildren in danger like that. But I told him that wasn't my intention. I just didn't want to feed my kids 3-year-old meat, but he just refused to listen to me. My dad's still insisting that I'm the one being dramatic. My husband is completely on my side, but thinks forbidding my father from cooking for our children might have been a little bit too much. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because there is no way I'm eating 3-year-old meat. That should have been rotated around, and he should have used that way sooner than March 2021. And by the way, that's just when it expired. Sometimes this meat is good for like a year and a half. So I'm willing to guess that he probably bought this back in like, I don't know, 2018 or 2019 or something like that. And that would be especially true if it's like packaged and it's meant to be stored for a long time. But regardless, if something expired back in 2021, there's no way I'm ever going to eat it. Because in my opinion, this is just further proof that your father's being irresponsible with his food. If someone wants to have a large supply of food storage, then go for it. But they need to be responsible with it and actually use the food that they have in their storage. Otherwise, you're going to look up and have 3-year-old meat sitting in your freezer. So no, I don't blame you for denying him ever cooking that food for you, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. An entitled jerk demands that I turn down my music on my property, as he claims that it's too loud and that the lyrics are way too vulgar. So I decide to maliciously comply by loudly playing opera music from my 12-inch subs on my car in a way that he could never possibly ignore. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I need to give some information. This happened over 12 years ago at my family's house when I was about 22 years old, and I was passionate about my old SUV that I had painted a metallic red with neon lights underneath and had on 22-inch chrome rims and a decent stereo that you could hear about a quarter mile away. Our neighbors themselves paid absolutely no attention to anything going on outside their doors, and although we are all friendly and any one of us would drop what we are doing to help one of us in need, in 20 years, you can count the conversations that we've exchanged without taking off your shoes, and we all have our own little hobbies. One of them has goats and chickens, another keeps bees, and one across the road repairs lawnmowers, ATVs, and such, and I never do anything that would normally invite onlookers. But one Saturday afternoon, I was changing the oil and spark plugs on my SUV with a beer and some Cheetos in our driveway, and I had a tiny speaker hooked up to my phone playing some old school rap. And on that day, the lady on our left was having some landscaping and yard work done. I was rolling around under my truck on my back, literally elbows deep in the greasy mess, and a little irritated because I had just dropped my 10mm socket, but as I did that, I see some steel-toed leather boots walking the 30 feet up to my driveway and up to my Suburban. I roll out from underneath my car and I gave the guy a very confused look. Well, he straight up just told me to turn the music down because he didn't like the vulgar and violent lyrics. And seriously, it's like gospel music must be the only music he ever listens to. And I know for a fact that this little speaker couldn't possibly be legible to anybody 50 feet away, especially if he's concentrating on cutting shrubs and planting flowers and such. Despite my passions, I'm not a complete jerk. So I say to him, "Okay, no problem. I'll take care of it as soon as I get my hands wiped off. Have a good day." He then stomped away in a fit, muttering some awful things underneath his breath. And when I heard some of the vulgar things that he was saying, that really sickened me. But it was right then that I had a brilliant idea. I immediately turned off my tiny speaker playing Underground Kings and pulled out the battery jump box, put it on my truck's battery, and went inside my house and got my opera CD collection and rolled down all the windows to unveil my 4 12-inch subs and 8 6-inch mids, and I put on the Valkyrie by Wagner and unleashed the stereo's 2,000 watts and went back under the SUV to finish draining the oil. Now, the look on this guy's face was priceless. I guess he didn't think that someone like me had a taste for opera, which is not usually something I bring out on a hot day of rolling around in the oil, but I do enjoy it when I'm relaxing in my den sometimes. After about 20 minutes, I was done with the tune-up, and I started up the car and decided to drive it up and down the road just to make sure that the oil level was settled. I parked back in my driveway, shutting everything down, and as I put everything away, I see the landscaping truck leaving without taking the time to close his tailgate, and by some kind of sweet karma, some of his tools rolled out as he slammed the gas pedal. table. And it was right then that I had to turn around so he wouldn't see my ear-to-ear grin. 2 days later, while taking out the trash, I waved to the neighbor lady who was having tea on the porch, and I explained what happened, and I wanted to apologize if I caused her any problems with her landscaper. Well, that sweet old lady just laughed and said, "Oh, that guy's a jerk anyways." And he even tells her grandson to lower the volume on his video games if he's ever over at her house while he's working. But even though I still see the same landscaping truck on occasion, I'm sure that this guy won't be forgetting me anytime soon. Yeah, I'm of the opinion that if someone's not bothering you and they're doing something that's literally away from you and they might be making like a little bit of noise, then you have no right to go over there and be like, "You need to turn all your music down. You need to be quiet. You're disturbing me." Like, no, that is not how this works, especially if they're on their own property and it's like a normal time of day. Now, if this guy was playing music that was really loud in the middle of the night and you were somehow like a neighbor or something along those lines, then sure, it's time for them to be quiet. But if they're out on their own property, literally fixing up their car and trying to get something done, and you walk over there all disgruntled and say, "You've got to turn it all down," then in my opinion, you are in the wrong and you absolutely deserve to be humiliated and put in your place. An entitled Karen freaks out on me after she tried to buy alcohol for her son who very clearly could have been underage. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of information about me, I don't really drink or do any kind of substances, and I've been homeless for a while, but I managed to find myself a job. And this situation literally just happened to me. I was sitting at the counter, as my job involves renting boats and cottages, but we do have a storefront that sells beer, fishing supplies, boat rentals, and food. A person came up to the counter with a 24-pack of beer and tried to buy it. The guy looked young, maybe under 19 years old. And for reference, I'm Canadian, so you need to be 19 to purchase alcohol. This guy didn't have any identification, so I told him that I couldn't sell him booze. Well, he clapped back at me, saying it's okay because he's 20. But I told him I can't sell you anything without an ID. No ID, no sale. So at this point, he really started to talk down to me, saying he's old enough and told me not to make him go get it. He then pointed to his car and said that he's busy. So I said to them, "Okay, so you're driving without a license?" And when I said that, this guy got flustered and finally left the store. About 30 minutes later, this older woman walks in and I see the kid from before outside. She grabbed a 24-pack and came to the counter. She pointed outside and asked if I was the person who wouldn't sell her kid any beer. And I just said, "Yes, if you don't have an ID, I'm not going to sell it." She huffed at me and said, "Whatever," and then tried to make her purchase. So I asked her, "Does your kid have his ID on him now?" But she said no, that she's buying the beer. But I said, "Unfortunately, I can't sell it to you without him having an ID." This lady then started to scream at me, saying that she's in her 40s and that she has her license. But that's when I explained that I couldn't sell her alcohol, knowing that she's giving it to a potentially minor or someone without an ID. She then screamed and called me a moron. She flipped me off and said that she was going to call corporate to complain about me. I told her, "Ma'am, it's a small business, but I'll happily give you the owner's number." Well, she eventually left and I called the owner to explain everything. And trust me, she was not even mad. Instead, she laughed and said that I handled it perfectly. Yeah, I think you handled that perfectly as well. And honestly, I think the fact that this Karen seriously thought she could buy alcohol for this kid without ever trying to account for his age or even him having an identification in the first place, like that is crazy to me, and that is not the mark of a good mother. So good for you for standing your ground and not letting her break the law and probably get you in trouble. Because if something went wrong, I guarantee you this absolutely would have fallen on your shoulders. Would I be the jerk if I said no to my parents moving into mine and my husband's house that we are literally renovating as we speak? Here's what happened. My husband and I recently got married in January of 2024 and have been waiting to move into our own 3-bedroom apartment that is still going through renovations that's taking longer than expected. My husband moved into my dad's 1-bedroom apartment after we got married, as no one else has been living there except for me. I've also been paying rent ever since I started working. For context, my dad has been living in a rented, semi-detached home with his stepmom and her mother ever since he remarried 7 years ago. They also have a male tenant living with them in the house who is rarely home due to his working hours. Also, my dad's mother-in-law owns a studio apartment that is currently vacant. A few months ago, my dad came to us and told us that the owners of their rental house wants it back to undergo renovations and then renting it at a higher value, which my parents clearly cannot afford. While my husband and I were house hunting, we brought it up to my dad and offered to let them stay with us and at no cost. Well, he declined, as he said my stepmom would not feel comfortable having to live with another guy at close proximity, namely my husband. Also, it's too far from her siblings and the city center, and she is used to living in landed properties, so an apartment would be too small for her. We also offered to move move out of his house so that they can move in, but he declined, as there is only one bedroom and her mom insists on following my stepmom wherever she goes, even though she has her own house. Well, yesterday, my dad sat me and my husband down to let us know that he will be moving in with us to our new home, as time is running out for them, and that they'll move out after 4 months once the renovations are done. However, my dad told us that it will be him, my stepmom, her mother, and their tenant, and they will all be paying us rent. But I was really confused, as this is a 3-bedroom apartment, so where would we have any kind of space for the extra tenant? He then continued, saying that me and my husband can continue living in his 1-bedroom apartment while they live in our new home for the next 4 months. Well, that got me angry, because they have decided to not live with us, but somehow made the decision about where we will be living. I had to maintain my composure, as I was with my family and I didn't want to ruin the day. Once we were home, my husband and I sat down and talked about what we were going to let my dad know if he ever were to bring the conversation up again, and have decided that they can live with us and still not kick us out, or they can live elsewhere since they actually have choices instead of choosing the easy way out. So would I be the jerk if I denied him living in our new apartment? What should I do? Okay, this is ridiculous, because if I was in the original poster's shoes, these people would not be moving into my new apartment. That's not happening. That is an insane demand that I would literally ignore right there on the spot. He can find another apartment somewhere else, and he has no right to try and kick you out of your 3-bedroom apartment that you're literally getting fixed up so that you can live there. Like, that just makes me really mad even just thinking about it. So no, you would not be the jerk for telling them to kick rocks, because these people are being very selfish, and it quite literally is only going to be at your expense. My crazy girlfriend demands that I give her $100,000 or else she will leave me and never love me again. And after having an on and off again relationship with her, as well as finally coming to my senses that this might not be good for me, I am now highly considering dumping her, as I'm starting to realize that my girlfriend might actually be scamming me. Here's what happened. So I met my girlfriend earlier this year at an Asian massage parlor, and we've been together for 8 months. She is Chinese and I'm Chinese American, and we communicate in Chinese. In the beginning, I visited her, and eventually we moved to texting on WeChat. We would talk about dreams and daily life, and I would also help her with English every single day, and I actually really loved her. About 3 months in, she started asking me to drive her around to see store locations for future businesses. So for about 1 to 2 months, I would research locations, create a list, and I would drive her to go see them. At one point, I asked her if the location we saw was great, but she thinks it's too close to another nearby massage parlor. I mentioned that it's not, since it's like 3 blocks away, which is much further than a previous location we saw, which has another parlor literally across the street. In a raised voice, she said to me, "How many times do I have to tell you not to ask this type of question? You never learn." So I got annoyed and I raised my voice and said, "Well, I need to know your thought process, since it seems to be contradictory to what you said. You need to make up your mind." Well, we did not talk on the car ride home, and from this point forward, it was basically the end of our sweet honeymoon phase, and this would be our first breakup. Each time, I would have to talk to her and comfort her to be accepted again. In the next few months, we were still together, and we would take turns staying over at each other's places, and every now and then, we would go out and play badminton. One time, when I went to get the racks from my car trunk, she put her over-the-shoulder backpack on me. I took it off and I asked her to hold it for me while I get the rackets. Well, she wasn't happy, and I can see this wasn't going to end well, but I thought we already drove all the way over to the badminton courts, and we should just continue as this might cheer her up. So I just paid for the badminton session. When we started to play, she took her racket out of the bag and dropped the racket bag and remaining rackets on the ground from a standing position, and I was a bit shocked. I didn't serve, and I asked her why she did that, and then my girlfriend just left the building. Now, luckily, I was able to request a refund, and then I quickly went after her, and this incident would be our second breakup. Now, around this time, she deleted me from her WeChat, which meant that all the early romantic conversations we had were gone from her end. I still have our conversation history on my WeChat, but she was not able to recover them on her end. And this is really hard, since our memory of each other is lost now. Now, it's worth mentioning, since my English and Chinese is good, I often help out her and her relatives with any English-related task on a regular basis. One time, I helped her cousin sign up for a Gmail account, and it was then that I learned her cousin was older than me. Now, I found this strange, since her cousin always referred to my girlfriend as an older sister in Chinese. The whole time, I thought my girlfriend was younger than me, but I had a suspicion that she might be older. But this wasn't an issue because I really loved her. One time when we went into my car, she mentioned that I'm just like a little brother, so I took the chance to ask about her age, and I learned that she was older than me by by 3 years. We then got food and talked about this, and I later found out she has been in a previous marriage in China and has a daughter. I also learned going from China to California was not cheap, and she owes her aunt over $50,000 for the arrangement. Last month in September, we were casually talking on WeChat, and I was looking at my Apple Watch and noticed I was spending quite a bit on food, and I needed to be more aware of my spending when it comes to myself. Now, this was all in Chinese, and my Chinese is good, but it's not perfect. Well, she mistook this as me saying I've been spending too much on our dates, and later sent a message to me saying that we should break up. I didn't know what to say, and she later just ignored me. For about a week, I felt depressed, and I just couldn't function. So I drove to her house and I talked to her. I said, without you, I'm not myself, and I'm not complete. I asked her what she wanted, and she told me she wants $50,000 by the end of September so that she can pay off her debt to her aunt. And you know what? I agreed. And then she says she wants me to buy her a $50,000 car, which is way more expensive than my own car. She says that she wants this so she can leave this industry and then she can pursue her passion of being a beautician. And honestly, not being able to think, I just completely agreed with her. It should be noted, agreeing on her request and saying it can be done means that I have to get it done. Otherwise, I don't mean what I say and then she'll just leave me again. With this though, she wanted to see results. So I gave her aunt $5,000 in cash. This was almost my full bank account, and the following weeks were very difficult for me financially. On the last day of September, I saw flowers at Costco and I thought of her, so I decided to bring them over. I've been busy throughout the week, and I didn't think too much about getting the $45,000 personal loan. I applied to a few locations, but rates were high, and they weren't from well-known banks, so I didn't think much about it. When I got to her house, she was happy to see me and asked if I took care of the loan. I said I did not have time and I was busy all week. Well, she immediately became bitter, and then she went to her room and just completely ignored me. I told her I would be able to do it, but she just said that I'm not able to keep my word. The next day, she was a bit better, and we went to scout a location to open up a beautician shop. When we got to my place, I tried to get close to her, if you know what I mean, but she said not until she gets the money. With us breaking up so often, I wasn't sure if I wanted to take the loan out. So I asked if she could text me that she would at least pay the monthly fees. But then she got upset and called an Uber home. Now, I tried to text her, but I got no reply. So, feeling really depressed, I started applying for personal loans, and I found out that Discover Bank was able to help, and I started the application process. Now, it's also important to know that her cousin and aunt often ask me for help. And fast forward to this week, and recently, her cousin asked me to search for Toyota cars for her. So, I took my girlfriend's cousin around to see cars yesterday. We didn't really see what we liked, and we returned to my girlfriend's house. Now, my girlfriend is still ignoring me, but when I tried to talk to her, she mentioned that unless I have the money, she will not talk to me. She also mentioned today was a waste of time since we checked cars and had no result. I talked to my girlfriend, promising that I'll get the money and I will start paying it off first until she has her license. And then I will buy her a car and she will start paying off the personal loans. We all then had dinner, and I found out her cousin and her aunt don't have the $25,000 cash to buy a Toyota that they want. Having come from China recently, getting a loan may be a difficult process for them. So my girlfriend proposed for me to take out a $25,000 personal loan under my name so that I could give it to her cousin to buy a car, and that this $25,000 will then be deducted from the $50,000 that she owes her aunt. And again, I just agreed with her. I went through the process with Discover Loans, and they mentioned needing 48 to 72 hours to process everything. My girlfriend was still bitter, but things were starting to look better. Now, at night, I needed her room to finish some work, and I finally wrapped up at around midnight, and when she came into the room, she asked when I'm going home. I said I was wrapping up, and then I asked her if I can take the couch in the living room, but she said that her aunt was going to sleep there since their house was full that day. But her aunt ended up sharing a bed with someone else, and instead let me take the couch. Now, this all happened yesterday night, so that night, as I was wrapping up work, I started to think, even as I try to make my girlfriend happy and do what she wants, she is still never happy. The romantic days that we shared months ago disappeared, and it has never been the same ever since. And I realize I really don't need to be treated like this. The person I really loved is no longer there. It is sad, but looking at it from a bigger picture, I'm only hurting myself, and I don't need to be treated like this. I'm scared of loneliness, being rejected, and disappointing people. And I really like the feeling of somebody loving me, and that may be the reason why I kept going back. So yesterday night at 1 in the morning, I packed my backpack and I drove home. And my roommate was awake, so I just talked about my ideas until about 3 in the morning. Now, I'm writing this since it does make sense for me to leave. It makes sense to me logically, financially, and mentally. I guess I'm just longing for a memory that I'm hoping will come back, but it won't. This is my first anonymous post, and I'm writing this to remember what I've been going through and the reasons why I want to leave. What should I do? Okay, I am blown away that you're even with this lady in the first place. Okay, let me get this straight. She's treated you like garbage practically from the beginning of your relationship, and now she's literally asking for tens of thousands of dollars from you. And she's only gonna be happy unless you give her that money. Like, how could anybody in their rational mind be like, oh, but I want to feel loved and accepted. I want to feel loved by somebody. But like, my man, this lady does not like you. She likes your bank account, and she's gonna love putting you in debt, especially if it helps out her and her family. Like, these people are playing you for a fool. They are exploiting you and they are scamming you. They don't care about you in the slightest. And your girlfriend is not your girlfriend. She doesn't care about you either. I think I can confidently say that based on what you've described. Like, what girlfriend in their right mind would be like, oh, the only way you can make me happy is by giving me $50,000. Otherwise, I'm never talking to you. Like, she sounds more like a loan shark than she does like someone that cares about you. So brother, the writing is on the wall, and you can seriously do so much better than this crazy lady. She only cares about money, and more importantly, she only cares about your money. Because I guarantee you, if you fund anything in their lives, the second they get that money, they're gonna hightail it and you will never see them again. And that is not something that you ever want to deal with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my parents out financially, all because they only help my siblings and have quite literally turned me away anytime I needed any kind of help? Here's what happened. So I'm a 30-year-old male and I'm the oldest of 5, and my siblings range from the ages of 28 all the way down to 23. Our parents were always generous with giving money when asked for it, except when it came to me. I was told I should learn to work hard. I was told I didn't need the video game or the toy that I might be asking for. I was told that earning money was the only way I'd ever have money, and I had not earned money from them. But my siblings could get whatever they wanted. When I first graduated college, I ended up struggling financially because where I went to work, the cost of apartments were so high. I asked my parents if they could help me out, and they just said no to me. I ended up in a shelter for a few weeks and then rented a dump of an apartment with a friend who found himself in literally the same situation. They not only helped my siblings through college, which they didn't do for me by the way, but they gave each of them lump sums after they graduated to help them get started in life. They also helped them out when asked over the years, especially during the COVID years. They didn't offer any money to help towards mine and my wife's wedding. And you know what? We didn't even ask. But it stood out more when my sister got engaged and our parents had mentioned money for all the weddings. And again, it was all except for mine. Only now this has finally all caught up with them and they are in a very tight spot with money. And now they're asking me for money too. They told me they need my wife and I's help and we should do it because of how great they have been and that they have never said no to any of us. But I told them they have never helped me with anything, that they preferred to see me homeless rather than help me out. They argued back that it never happened and I could have asked if things were that bad. But I then showed them screenshots of text messages where I had brought the topic up after asking them verbally. Well, my parents dismissed it and then told me that they're still my parents and I'm the most settled and I could afford to help them out. But you know what? I admitted to them that I could, but I didn't feel that they earned it. Well, my parents called me spiteful and said I should help my parents rather than see them lose everything. I told them to ask the kids who they helped. And you know what? Even my siblings were pissed off that I said no. They told me mom and dad don't deserve my pettiness. So am I the jerk for turning them away and refusing to give them any money? What should I do? You are not the jerk and you are definitely giving them a taste of their own medicine. These people literally allowed you to become homeless. They showed all this love and kindness towards your siblings, but when it came to your desperate needs, they literally turned a blind eye and said, I'm sorry, but you haven't earned it yet. Which, by the way, that was a fantastic line to deliver towards them, especially because you know they absolutely remember saying that to you. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. These people have reaped what they sowed. Karma is literally coming back to bite them in the rear end, and in my opinion, based on what you described, these people absolutely deserve it. Am I the jerk for bringing an uninvited guest to a destination wedding after the maid of honor found out that my boyfriend was staying in my hotel room? Because right now, she is making a huge deal out of this, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I was invited to a wedding within my state, but far enough away that if I attended, I would have to sleep over at a hotel for at least 2 nights if I arrived the night before. And that's because this was was pretty much planned to be an all-day affair. Now, I was very flattered to be invited, as I didn't think I was that close to the couple. It was a fairly small wedding, maybe 60 guests including the bridal party, and obviously as it was very small, and I was possibly a second round invite, I didn't get a +1, which honestly was fine with me. So I ultimately decided to go. When I went to book the hotel room for my stay, I found that they only had large rooms available, as it is a popular wedding destination and it is a bit fancy. So I thought to myself, why not invite my boyfriend? That way we could trade off on the long drive there and back, and we can share the big room that I would have to pay for anyways. The idea was that night we arrived, we could get dinner together somewhere new, and then have a nice breakfast before heading back home. While I was at the wedding events, he could just hang out in the hotel room or by the pool or whatever. Now the wedding went great, and then after it wrapped up, the maid of honor was chatting with me as I walked back to my room, and I knocked on the door instead of digging through my bag for the key card. When my boyfriend opened the door for me, the maid of honor just greeted him and walked off, and I didn't think it was a big deal or anything like that. A few days later, the maid of honor reached out and said it was awkward and uncomfortable for me to have invited him to the hotel, and that it made everybody feel bad and weird that he was there waiting for the wedding to end when they had not invited him. And when we were told that, we were both very surprised. No one even knew he was there because it didn't come up at all during the wedding. It definitely wasn't a big secret, and honestly, we wouldn't have thought it was a big deal if people did know. And he had only met the bride and groom like 6 times and had 0 issues with not being invited to such an intimate wedding. Also, if it matters, I was far from the only guest who didn't get a +1, and I never asked to be given a +1 for him. I have no clue if the maid of honor told the bride, and if the bride also thinks this was inappropriate. If she hasn't, I really don't want to contact her, especially during her honeymoon to start drama. I didn't check or anything beforehand, which is my bad, I guess. So honestly, am I the jerk for inviting him to be at the hotel? Was this really that big of a deal? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk, and that maid of honor is an idiot. Seriously, let's think about this for a second. He didn't even go to the wedding. He literally stayed at the hotel and just waited for the wedding to be done. So for this maid of honor to idiotically be like, wow, you made this really weird for all of us. It's like, what are you talking about? He wasn't at the wedding. And this isn't even a hotel that they paid for. The original poster paid for this out of their own pocket. It would be different if the bride and groom paid for these hotel rooms, and then the original poster snuck their boyfriend in and they stayed with them during the duration. But that is not what happened. This came out of their own pocket, and they're the ones that paid for this. And if they wanted to bring their whole family with them and they all stuffed in that hotel room, then that is literally nobody's business except for the original poster. Like, the maid of honor didn't even know about this, so for her to be like, wow, you made everybody uncomfortable because of that, she's literally only talking about herself, because before this moment, she didn't even know that this guy was there. Like, seriously, what an annoying, idiotic thing to say. So no, you're definitely not the jerk for having your boyfriend at your hotel room. That maid of honor is a busybody and clearly is looking for reasons to complain, and that is definitely not your problem in the slightest. An entitled Karen demands that I get out of the way so that she and her stupid husband can move along and get past us faster than everybody else. And despite the fact that all of our cars are stuck in a deadlock and that none of us are moving any faster than the other, this Karen still goes into a rage, even going as far as knocking on my car window, demanding that I move faster or else she is gonna lose it. And I'm honestly still blown away by this entitled Karen's behavior, and I seriously hope I never have to deal with her ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, so I had a friend in from out of town, and we decided to go to a major attraction in my city that I had not been to yet. And needless to say, with it being one of the last sunny Saturdays of summer, the parking lot was absolutely packed. We find ourselves waiting behind a line of about 5 cars, and there are a few other cars behind us in the parking lot, and it's also a one-way road. We're sitting there for about 2 minutes when suddenly the parked car next to us starts honking. Now, let me just add in really quick that if someone is clearly trying to get out of a parking spot, like inching forward, turning their lights on or anything like that, then I will always make room if I can. Now, I didn't see anything like that when we got in line, and I didn't even notice anyone was in the car at all. We look over and we see Karen and Ken in the front seat, but seem to be making arm movements, as if to say, oh, I'm sorry, we hit the horn. And we look at them and they're just smiling and waving. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm not sure what's going on, so we just go ahead and ignore them. Well, suddenly, this Karen gets out of the car and storms up in a fury and starts to knock on my driver's side window really hard, and I can see that she's got the crazy eyes. I roll it down just enough to talk because I was honestly bewildered. This woman says to me, "Can you guys just move? We're trying to get out of here." Now, thinking that I might be talking to an alien who doesn't fully grasp the concept of time and space, I say something to the the effect of, "We can't get through these cars any easier than you can. I'm sorry, but I can't do anything." She then goes on to say, "Be serious. You can squeeze through on the left and get past all these cars. Figure it out. You can do it. We believe in you." I said to her, "I'll do what I can," and then I rolled my window back up. Now, since I'm a people pleaser, I actually did the whole crane my neck thing for a few seconds, and I saw that the cars were clearing out in front of us, and this Karen was out of my face for no more than 10 seconds before I saw her huffing up to my car again like some kind of angry Donald Duck, and it was honestly such perfect timing. I was just able to move forward literally as her fist was raised to my window again, and the look on her face as we drove past was absolutely hilarious. I then see Karen in my rearview mirror literally scrambling back to her car, and she and Ken peel out, acting like they were fast when the car behind me was letting them in anyways. They then come to a screeching halt behind me, and the entire time they're inching off to the left, as if they're going to magically squeeze their SUV through the 2 feet of available space in the left. And for all this drama, keep in mind that this all happened within about 4 minutes. When it was all said and done, we found parking within 5 minutes of getting there, and thankfully we didn't see this entitled Karen again, and we were so glad because we definitely did not want to deal with her for a second time. Yeah, I will never understand people acting like that, especially when you're just trying to find parking. Like, for starters, it's a major attraction in the city, and it's like the last day of summer practically. So for these people to be throwing a fit like that and acting as if, "Oh my god, you gotta get out of the way, we're waiting forever," like that kind of attitude would never make me move any faster. If anything, it would probably make me slow down just a little bit more. And you know what? Anyone who bangs on my car window is absolutely not getting what they want from me. That's inappropriate, that's rude, and seriously, you're just not gonna do that. So good for you for the way that you handled this, as well as the fact that you left this lady scrambling at the last second. Because at the end of the day, this wasn't some emergency situation, but instead, at the end of the day, this was just a bunch of entitled people acting like spoiled brats. My husband betrayed me in the worst way possible by lying to his coworkers, by claiming that my pregnant sister was actually his wife. And right now, after I discover the truth, I am completely devastated, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm 30 years old, and I've been married to my husband for 5 years. We've been together for 7, and we met back in college. He was the first guy who ever made me comfortable in my own skin. I've always been more of a tomboy into sports, preferring jeans over dresses, and my body's more on the athletic side. But growing up, that wasn't always easy. But my husband loved me for who I am, and he never made me feel like I needed to change. I really thought I found the perfect partner. Now, I also have a younger sister who we will call Rose, and we've always been close. She is beautiful and effortlessly charming, the kind of person that everyone just loves. Our mom has some serious narcissistic tendencies and definitely played favorites growing up, with Rose being the golden child. But it wasn't her fault, and she never asked for the attention. In fact, she's always been super kind and supportive, even though she's the type who avoids confrontation and puts herself last to make others happy. So we've never really had an issue between us, but all those comparisons growing up left me with insecurities that I've never fully shaken. About 2 months ago, Rose's long-term partner left her after finding out that she was pregnant. She was devastated, and we agreed that she should move in with us for a while to get back on her feet. She's been staying with us ever since, and at first, everything seemed fine. My husband didn't seem to act any different, so I didn't suspect anything was wrong. But 1 month ago, I asked Rose to drop off something for my husband at work because I was completely swamped, and I didn't think much of it, and if anything, I just thought that this would save me some time. Well, she did it, and it turns out that when she got there, everyone assumed that she was his wife. They then congratulated him on his beautiful wife and their soon-to-be son, and instead of correcting them, he just went along with it. He admitted that he liked how his coworkers reacted to having a beautiful wife and a baby on the way. He said that it made him feel good. One of his coworkers asked him where his wife was at an event, and since Rose had already dropped by once before, they assumed that she was his wife, and he just didn't correct them. And this made him feel validated, like he was living up to some ideal that I guess I don't fit into. I didn't find out about any of this until a few nights ago. We were out for dinner celebrating our anniversary when we ran into one of his coworkers at the restaurant. The guy asked my husband where his wife was, and when my husband said something vague about her being busy, I felt like the ground had just dropped out from underneath me. The date was basically ruined, and we went home as soon as we ate. I then confronted him as soon as we got home, and that's when he finally told me everything. To say that I was devastated would be an understatement. My husband and I had always agreed on being child-free. We had that discussion early on in our relationship, and I thought that we were on the same page. I don't have a strong desire to be a mom myself, partly because of of some personal issues myself, and I just know that it would be difficult for me to conceive. But now it feels like my husband's been using my sister to live out some fantasy life that I could never give him. Now, Rose had no idea about any of this, and when I told her, she was absolutely horrified. She kept apologizing even though none of this was her fault. She feels awful and has even offered to move out, but I just can't ask her to do that. She's already going through so much and I want to be there for her. But it is so awkward now. I can see how guilty and uncomfortable she feels being in the middle of this mess. This situation has also ripped open old wounds that I thought I had healed. I spent most of my 20s in therapy, working on my self-esteem and trying to overcome these insecurities, especially the ones tied to growing up in Rose's shadow. I thought I'd finally come to a place where I could love myself for who I am, but now it feels like all that progress has been undone. Years of therapy feels wasted, and I'm back to square one, questioning my worth and my place in my husband's life. Ever since finding out, things have been incredibly strained at home. My husband and I aren't sleeping in the same bed, and we've barely spoken to each other. The trust we once had feels shattered, and I have no idea how to even start repairing it. I feel so betrayed. If he can lie about something like this, what else is he hiding? Did he think I wasn't good enough to be introduced to his colleagues? And why has he never talked about his work friends before? I'm starting to wonder if he's been hiding me because he's embarrassed by who I am. This whole thing has dragged up every insecurity I've ever had. I've always felt like I didn't measure up to Rose, even though she's never done anything to make me feel that way. But now it feels like my husband has confirmed my worst fears, that he chose to pretend Rose was his wife because she fits some ideal image and I don't. I honestly don't know how to move forward from this. I love my husband and I want to believe that this is just a huge mistake, but this feels like so much more than that. I'm also worried about how this is affecting Rose. She's been nothing but supportive, but I can see how uncomfortable and guilty she feels being in the middle of all of this. I'm really struggling here. How do I even begin to address this with my husband without all of this turning into a huge fight again? I feel so low, but I just can't stand the idea of our relationship ending. I love this man more than anything. I've cried 2 times and have binge ate more than I've ever done before. How do I live my life knowing that I'm possibly not enough for my husband? What should I do? Wow, this is awful. Like legitimately, in my opinion, there is no good excuse for the way your husband acted. The second Rose went into his work and everyone started being like, wow, your wife is beautiful. Congratulations on your future child. Like that should have been shut down right then and there. He should have happily been like, no, that's not my wife. Like that is literally all he had to do to try and fix this situation. But instead, he entertained the idea of Rose being his wife and decided to roll with it instead of fixing it right then and there. It's also really alarming to me that he hasn't shown any remorse or even apologized. Like, think about it for a second. The original poster hasn't said anything about him being like, oh, I'm really sorry this happened. But instead, he's trying to plan date nights to try and fix the situation. I just cannot understand why he would do something like that, and I really think that this is something, in my opinion, that definitely cannot be looked past moving forward, because what he did to you is unacceptable, and this is definitely something that needs to be figured out much sooner than later. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for getting upset after coming home and finding my mother-in-law had rearranged all of my belongings without my permission first? Because right now I am very upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, my girlfriend and I moved into our apartment about 6 months ago, and honestly, so far so good. The only issues I have been having are boundary issues with her parents. She is a family-oriented person and takes pride in family time, which is one of the things I love most about her. However, I come from an entirely different upbringing, having very few people to turn to and relying on nobody but myself. I'm very private and I like my quiet time. My girlfriend's mother speaks without really thinking things through and doing whatever she wants no matter the place or time. A good example of that is our office space. This space is where the majority of the things I own stay in. I have a ton of Pokemon and baseball cards worth thousands of dollars. I have them in books and some just out in the open, and some are all over the place. Either way, in my weird way, I know where everything is and why it's there. Well, her parents came over with boxes and boxes of stuff that my girlfriend left over at her parents' place and decided to make their own little place in the office just for them. And I should also start by saying that I'm not home. I'm working a 12-hour-long shift at work while all of this is going on. I get home and it's close to 11 o'clock p.m. at night and I'm exhausted. I'm looking forward to having a nice shower and some sleep. Only I came home to my girlfriend not giving me a heads up her parents for some reason were eating dinner at 10:30 p.m., that her mother was in our bedroom folding my underwear, which is entirely weird on its own, and that she had spent the day supposedly organizing all of my cards and stuff I had laying around. And in that moment, I was beyond mad, and now I can't even find the things that I had out. My girlfriend didn't see a real issue with the situation until I started to yell in frustration. I said that I don't like my things being touched, and most of all, I don't like my things being moved around when I'm not at home. We're the ones that live here. It's one thing to drop a few boxes off and leave them for us to figure out what to do with them. I didn't ask anybody to organize my entire closet and office space. So am I overreacting here? If not, I don't know how to get my point across to my girlfriend without upsetting her. She just stays quiet and doesn't speak when I'm speaking, or if I ask for her to talk, she just completely shuts down on me. I don't start by yelling, but this type of situation has happened more than a handful of times. The last thing I want to do after a 12-hour shift at work is entertaining people who have turned my house upside down. After they left our apartment, I asked, why didn't you say anything to your mother about touching things in the office? And she just said, oh, I did. And that's as far as it went. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are not overreacting, and you're definitely not the jerk here. Your girlfriend is blatantly disrespecting your boundaries, and she's letting your parents literally go through all of your stuff. If that was me, I would have lost my mind. That is seriously so unfair, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Now, in my opinion, first and foremost, I would check the trash, because I legitimately think that your mother-in-law might have thrown some stuff away. Like, if you can't find it and you don't know where it is, she probably either took it or threw it away. And either one of those options is insane in my opinion. Like you said it best, this is your house. You're the one that lives here with your girlfriend. No one else has any right to be there except for you and her. So for her to just completely disrespect your boundaries like that and not try to stop her mother from doing something like this, like in my opinion, that is so inappropriate. There's literally no good excuse. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would literally stop this today. Like right this second, I would say something about it. Because this is blatantly just an invasion of privacy at this point. Because if your girlfriend is not mature enough to have some kind of conversation, then if I was in your shoes, I would be calling up the mother-in-law and say, hey, kindly never do that again. My house is not your house. Do not fold my underwear. Do not rearrange my office. Or something like that. Like seriously, I would not put up with this for a second. So truly, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, because that is seriously unfair and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling my older sister that my younger sister is planning on naming her newborn child after my older sister's deceased son? Because right now there is a lot of turmoil in my family, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, I have two sisters and I'm the middle sister. My older sister lost her son in late 2022, so it hasn't even been 2 years yet, and he passed away at 6 months old. And my older sister has been mourning him ever since. My little sister is pregnant with her first child now, and she found out that it's a boy. When I was over at her house, we were talking about her plans for the pregnancy and the baby, and she actually told me that she plans to name her son the name of my older sister's deceased son, and that I need to keep it a surprise. Now, I can tell that she thought it was an honor thing, but knowing my older sister, she would be devastated if that happened. I told my little sister I don't think it's a good idea, and that our older sister would not find it to be sweet and an honor, but instead it would only hurt her even more. We argued about it, and she said that I'm just being dramatic. Even though I knew it was supposed to be a surprise, I knew that my older sister would be even more depressed than she already is if our little sister named her son after her deceased son. So I went against my little sister's wishes, and I told my older sister, and as I expected, she was pissed. She said it was incredibly disgusting and selfish to do that, knowing how fresh it is for her, and that she does not want to see a baby with her son's name in the family, which I agreed with. She was very grateful that I told her before he was born, because she said she doesn't know how badly that would have triggered her. Well, she of course confronted my little sister, and they argued about it for a while, with everyone in our family siding with my older sister. My little sister then called me in tears, saying that I'm the reason that my older sister cut her off and isn't speaking to her, because she is still going to name her son after our nephew, even with my older sister begging her not to, saying that she doesn't find it as some kind of honor, and that it would hurt her to see another child named after her deceased one. I told my little sister that she's a horrible person for still going through with this, knowing how much this is going to hurt our sister. She then says that I'm a jerk for telling her, since it was supposed to be a surprise at birth, and that according to her, seeing her nephew with her son's name would have made her realize that it's a good thing, and that she's just trying to be a good person, and that I'm a jerk for making them fight. bite. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. You did the right thing by talking to your older sister and telling her exactly what this moron was about to do. Your younger sister is a complete idiot. Like seriously, she is so stupid it's not even funny. Who in their right mind would think that this is okay? Like it's probably super obvious in the family that the older sister is mourning the loss of her son, and she is clearly having such a hard time right now. So for your little sister to act like this and use your older sister's dead son's name as some kind of excuse to like pay tribute or like honor him in some kind of way is not only delusional but also kind of insane. Like seriously, that is a crazy thing to do. So truly, good for you for stepping up and saying something, because this kind of behavior absolutely deserved to be shamed. My sister-in-law is furious with me after I make her lunch every single day with just a little bit too much flourish, because now she claims she's embarrassed to eat her food in front of any of her coworkers, and she's now demanding that I stop or else she will never talk to me ever again. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female and I make meals every day for me and my husband to take to work. I enjoy adding my own personal flourish to the meals, usually with something like putting toppings in the shape of a heart or drawing a cute face on a snack. It's a fun hobby of mine, and it brings me joy later in the day to open my lunch and see it nicely arranged. A few years ago, my sister-in-law had to take a lower-paying job after an accident that left her unable to work at her previous one. So I began making her meals like I did for my husband and myself, as I knew she was struggling both financially and emotionally. She lives very close to us, so my husband always just dropped them off on his commute to work. I always added my extra touch to her meals as well, since I enjoy cooking, and I figured it would be a nice thing to do. However, she called me a few months ago and asked me if I could stop making her lunches look so fancy. Now, I legitimately thought that she was joking, but according to her, none of her colleagues at work have such elaborate lunches, and it makes her feel as if she is flaunting her status. Now, she is not paying me for the lunches, and it takes me maybe an extra 10 minutes maximum to add some kind of fun touch to the meal, so I was confused on her train of thought. I thought that maybe her coworkers were taking her lunch and she just didn't want to tell me, but I agreed to make the lunches less fancy because I wanted her to feel comfortable. Well, since I make the exact same meals for all three of us, now I just don't put effort into the presentation of one of them. Since my husband drops off the lunch on his way to work, there has been 1 or 2 times where he has accidentally given her the wrong box. I have labeled which lunch is not flourished, but in the rush of the commute, there is still the occasional instance of taking the wrong box. My sister-in-law then asked me a few days ago if I could just stop making both me and my husband's lunches fancy due to the risk of her being given the wrong one, but I refused, as it makes me happy to see the extra touch of personality in the food, and I told her that it wouldn't hurt her if she got one accidental fancy meal. But when I said that, she was furious and then she hung up on me. She has now been refusing to talk to me over the past few days, and when I tried to call her to reason, she just kept hanging up on me. She has told my husband that she will only talk to me if I agree to stop making all of our lunches look so fancy. Well, I am still making her lunches every day, and my husband is still dropping them off. And while my husband agrees with me that her demand was out of order, he has now said that maybe I should just make all the food less flourished, just so that she will not be angry if there is an accidental swap of lunches. I know that it would be easy on me to just not flourish the food, but I don't want to give up my hobby for a theoretical chance of her receiving the wrong box. So am I the jerk for refusing to do this? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk. This sounds like a really cute thing to do, and if I had a significant other who was doing that, I would treasure that and be like, okay, let's keep doing that. Also, is your sister-in-law forgetting the fact that you're making lunches for her every single day? Like, you don't need to do that, but you're doing it out of the kindness of your own heart to help her out since she's having a hard time financially. And she really wants to sit there and be picky about what she's getting. She's like, oh my god, this is too fancy. Can you tone it down? In fact, you need to stop doing that for all of your lunches. I don't want to accidentally be embarrassed at work. Like, what are you talking about? This is literally someone biting the hand that's feeding them. So in my opinion, if your sister-in-law doesn't like that, then she can make her own stupid lunches. I mean, I'm kind of surprised you're even making them still in the first place, because this behavior is insane. She can't just make these kinds of weird demands and expect you to just follow through with them, because the only words coming out of her mouth should be a thank you and that's it. And if she doesn't like the way her food looks, then honestly, she can close her eyes and take a bite, because these kinds of weird demands, in my opinion, are completely unacceptable. My boyfriend falsely staged an intervention for me, despite the fact that I'm not addicted to any substances. And now my family, friends, and work colleagues are all slowly turning against me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years, and our relationship has had absolutely no issues before this incident. accident. He has been the perfect and most loving partner. However, last week, I came home from work to an intervention with all my close friends and family, orchestrated by my boyfriend, who has apparently convinced them that I'm an addict. For context, I have no history of substance abuse, no behavioral signs that would suggest any kind of addiction, and no reason for him to believe otherwise. I believe he knows I'm not on any kind of substance because he has said things to my mom and sister that he knows to be untrue, claiming that things have gone missing around the house even though they haven't, that I've used his credit card to withdraw money even though I don't have any of his card details, and that I've been acting erratically despite the fact that I haven't done anything out of the ordinary. When I confronted him about all of this, he said, "It's not about the substances, it's about making sure that you're safe." My partner is a psychologist and has convinced my entire family that I'm somehow displaying all the hallmark signs of having some kind of substance addiction. They all insist that I'm in denial and that I need some help, and no one is willing to entertain my denials at all. My mom says that she isn't willing to have me over to her house, and my sister won't allow me to see my niece until I go to rehab. Based on conversations with my family and friends, I believe he's been spinning this story for several months now, literally all prior to staging the intervention. I'm now super embarrassed, as he organized for practically all of my close friends, family, and even a work colleague to attend this intervention. But more than that, I feel utterly betrayed and confused. I can't understand his motivation for doing this. Can anyone offer me some insight into what is prompting this otherwise normal man to do this? What should I do? This is probably the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life, and if I was in your shoes, I would be dumping him right away and getting out of that situation. For starters, who cares about his motivation? This guy's trying to isolate you and ruin your life. He's turning your friends, family, and your work colleagues against you by making up some lie that you're somehow addicted to substances. And since you're not, you're probably thinking like, what is going on right now? I am not addicted to anything. And at this point, in my opinion, I would just start viewing your boyfriend as not your boyfriend. But instead, this is someone you absolutely need to run from, because this is not normal behavior. And this is also not a normal man. He's not otherwise normal. This guy's insane. He is literally using his profession as a psychologist to isolate you from everybody that you know. And he's trying to force you into rehab for something that you don't have a problem with. Like, this guy is manipulating everybody around you to try and turn them against you. So if I was in your shoes, I would get out of there like yesterday. There's no way I would stay in that relationship. I would write everything down and probably look for like local or state help to try and get you out of that situation, because your boyfriend sounds quite literally unhinged, and this is not something that I would take lightly in the slightest. Thank you so much for watching. We love and appreciate you guys so much. Have I said that recently? Like, you guys just don't understand. When I see those comments that you guys leave in the comment section, and I see all the interactions you guys are like throwing our way towards the content we make, it really means a lot to me. Like, seriously, I put a lot of hard work into this. I make a video every single day for the channel, so the fact that you guys are loving it is like all the motivation I would ever need to like keep going and make more. So seriously, you guys are the best. I love and appreciate you, and I'm just so glad you guys are a part of this community, dude. Like, this is the best community on the internet, I've got to say. I see other communities who are like in the similar genre as Am I the Jerk just not have as good of a time as we do, man. In some of the other comment sections, you see like bickering and fighting and like backbiting and people being really nasty, but like, dude, in our comment section, you don't see any of that, and that is so heartwarming. So seriously, I really love and appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Am I the Jerk and hit the bell to turn on notifications. That way you never miss a video. Thank you again, and I will see you in the next video.